Transform your aspiration into accomplishment. Initiate your UPSC CSE prep and establish a robust foundation with the GS Foundation Course 2025 at Vision IAS Delhi. Designed to unlock success, the course features comprehensive syllabus coverage with integrated coverage for GS Prelims, GS Mains, CSAT, and essay, regular practice and assessment, continuous assessment through daily assignments, weekly mini tests, and monthly revision tests paired with feedback by subject matter experts. And much more awaits your participation. Join the Vision IAS Delhi GS Foundation Course 2025. Batches starting 21st March, 5 p.m. 12th March, 9 a.m. The time is now. Seize this opportunity to excel. Spanning across India, the most awaited mock test series of the year is back. Vision IAS is proud to announce Abhyaas 2024, the essential All India Prelims, GS and CSAT mock test series for UPSC Prelims Examination 2024. First level in the three-stage UPSC Civil Services Examination. Prelims signify the start of an aspirant's roadmap to becoming IAS. With test centers in 100+ cities, it is designed to help every aspirant analyze and improve objective thinking and reasoning skills for the examination. Key highlights include All India Ranking, Vision IAS Post-Test Analysis, attempted by every 1 in 3 selected candidates in the top 50. Complete coverage of UPSC Prelims syllabus, available in English Hindi. Live test discussion. Welcome everyone. Meet Arav, an aspiring UPSC candidate. His eyes are full of dreams, his room a reflection of his ambition with UPSC topper stories. Arav starts his journey and soon finding himself engulfed by mountains of books and endless notes as he grapples with the vast UPSC syllabus. Despite trying various revision methods, Arav's anxiety escalates each day. He feels lost in a sea of information, struggling for direction. In his moment of confusion, Arav discovers the Lakshya Prelims Mentoring Program 2024, a ray of hope in his challenging journey. He found that Lakshya program offers a strategic plan for revision and practice, which includes the entire GS and CSAT syllabus. It skillfully integrates monthly current affairs and PT 365 with the static GS syllabus for a comprehensive revision. CSAT, once a daunting task, is now approached with rigorous practice and focus, building confidence. Amazed by the personalized approach, Arav finds Lakshya's plan as per his unique needs, that is, by focusing on high-yielding areas, facilitating multiple revisions, providing effective and validated reading list for efficient preparation and analyzing the evolving demand for UPSC Prelims paper with in-depth trend analysis of previous year questions, PYQs. With Lakshya's structured plan, Arav's approach to preparation evolves. The chaos of his study room now becomes a focused learning environment. Empowered and confident, Arav is now ready to conquer the UPSC Prelims. The once daunting task now appears within his reach. Interested in learning more or registering? Visit visionis.in/Lakshya or call us on these numbers. Start your successful journey with Vision IAS today.
So hi, good evening. After very long, a 7-year date with you. So, थोड़े settle हो जाने दो लोगों को, then we'll start. So, Chalo, I'm starting with the modalities of this session first. So basically, the purpose of this session is not only to discuss those 7-year paper, like 7-year paper of the modern Indian history, but also at the same point of time to interact with you also, to know that how your preparation is going on, and then moreover at the same point of time that where you are facing difficulties, and then if there is any kind of assistance from our side which can be provided to you. That so we will start with the analysis of the modern paper, that how many questions and then from which particular areas in last 7 years UPSC has focused. After that trend analysis part, we will enter into the discussion. So as you know that this session will span for 2 days. Half of the section we will take it tomorrow, take it today, and then half section will be dealing tomorrow. Then, but in this section, I would try to incorporate a little bit of extra information that you have already got in the classes then, and in the form of the questions. So wherever the questions are there, wherever some additional information is there, which can build further knowledge of yours, so that will be incorporated. Okay? So let's start with that. Moreover, before spearheading into the discussion of the questions, it's not a very difficult task to discuss the question almost everywhere. The explanations are available then, but then the approach you will be following, that is important, that and how you'll be solving the question at the same point of time. As you know that unpredictability is very high in the exam then. So if you look at not just 7-year paper, but 10 साल का paper उठा लो, ठीक है? And in 10-year paper, you will see that modern has also been experimented many a times then, and the nature of the questions have also changed over the period. So that is discussion is also required. So I have brought the material. I hope you know that where it is, that where you can get the material. It is on the in the open resource. You can download it. It is free for everyone. So 7-year paper you can download it, and not just the modern but many other subjects also. 7-year paper is there and the explanations are also there. Then, so start kare, okay? So I'll go ahead with the very first part. Just 1 minute. So just look at it, that what all things. So इसमें ये 7-year में ये sources type ये छोड़ दो. Let's come to this part from section number 6 to the last one. So as you see, the focus of the UPSC has been that the questions have been asked from the advent of Europeans, economic impact of the British policies, British acts and policies, Swadeshi movement, Gandhian phase, transfer of power, peasant movement and tribal rebellion, socio-religious movement, working class movement, personality-based questions and chronology, and miscellaneous. Then, so we'll see that what all comes under this category. Then apart from it, so let's have a discussion on the that how the things have been asked in the previous years. Then, so as you can see that सबसे ज़्यादा questions then that it is from the Gandhian phase and the British acts and policy. In classes also we have discussed about this part, that British acts and policies. So as we discuss about the acts and policy, so कहाँ से start करते हैं? From where we start? From 1773. Then, so regulating act of the 1773. Then after that, हाँ. So Pitt's India Act, and बीच में कुछ और भी acts हैं, amending act, and then special acts are also there. But the main acts, so Pitt's India Act, then all the Charter Act starting from the 1793 and going till the 1853. Then after transfer of power from British East India Company to so British Crown, and then after 1858 Government of India Act, and in the Government of India Act what is mentioned? Indian Council, okay? So Imperial Council of India or Council of India, 15 member. So that council is to be expanded, and for that purpose there were many council acts. So 1861, 1892, and then after 1909, 1919, and the lastly Government of India Act 1935. So time and again, so 7 year में as you can see that in 7 year 12 questions are there. It means कि possibility यही है कि हर साल every year you are finding 2 questions from the acts and policies. Then in 7 years you are getting 6 questions from the Gandhian phase. So what all comes under, यहाँ पे हमने तो लिख दिया that Gandhian phase, but then what all comes under the Gandhian phase? So it will include the parts of the that starting from the Gandhian phase in South Africa 1893 to 1914, and Gandhi's return to India, then his regional interventions which includes Champaran, Ahmedabad, Kheda, and then after his all India interventions, then so Rowlett, non-cooperation, and then civil disobedience, individual satyagraha, and then after Quit India movement. Then so these all will come under the Gandhian phase. Then apart from it, next is that the bigger number of the question, personality based question. It is also one of the favorite question. So personality based question mein dekho that as you go into the syllabus of the mains, then and there are two parts of the syllabus which are mentioned in the mains examination. One very first part, it mentioned that history of India from the middle of the 18th century, then and significant events and the personalities. So they have mentioned in the first part personalities. Second part also freedom struggle, different phases of the freedom struggle and different personalities associated with the freedom struggle and their contributions. So personalities, both the sections they have mentioned, and they could be from any field. In fact, in the mains exam also, if you look at it, so personality based questions are always asked. Last year there was a question of comparison of the Gandhi and Tagore. Then there has been a question of comparison of the Gandhi and Ambedkar, Gandhi and Bose, and time and again a single person has been chosen, his contribution has also been asked. Then personality based question will also include that who were the presidents of the Congress, from the minority community, from the women section, n number of the type of the personality based questions can be asked. Who was the announcer of the radio? So this is one important part and regularly they are asking. Then socio-religious movement jahan tak concerned hai, so socio-religious movement, it is always like that earlier before 2017, every year there was a question, but then here in last 7 years they have asked 3 questions in the pre-exam, but in mains exam they have asked 2 questions. Then come to the next part, peasants revolt and tribal rebellions, thoda idhar mein badh gaya hai. So 3 questions they have asked. Then one was related to the Munda, another was related to the Santhal. Then so, and transfer of power, एक question, then chronology based question. So एक और चीज है that some part of the modern is not separate from the medieval. Then so most of the time the chronology which you have studied in the medieval becomes handy in the modern. Then so you must be very much aware about it. If you have done that ancient and medieval from any sources, I would highly recommend to you that if you have done from any source, stick to that source, add little bit of stuff into that chronology. So for example, some of the regional kingdoms, then that generally what happens in the classroom programs, that the classrooms are designed for 10, 11, 12 classes. So then not all the regional kingdoms are covered. But what you do, that from any such good source, just write the sum of the regional kingdoms. Then so some of the regional kingdoms are covered in the classes, but some regional kingdoms just their timeline. So for example, that you can write the timeline of the Kakatiyas, you can write the timeline in the ancient Kadambas, Gajpati, Ganga. Then so just go through it. Then क्योंकि अगर जो question देखोगे ancient or medieval or modern, if I fuse it all, so then you will find that there is a mixed question also. Then and just you remember that part, so then it will be handy. There are some questions I'll tell you that how you could be handling those questions. Then apart from it, miscellaneous. So miscellaneous can be classified as kind of a mix of current affair, the current initiatives of the government, and then it is also combined with the static part. So one part of the question would be static and one part of the question or two part of the question would be something related to current affair. But then एक composition देखो, total 49 questions are there, and then this miscellaneous type or where unconventional type of questions are there, so बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है, ठीक है? So generally what happens that many a time in the static portion we run after the current affair. इतना भी run करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. That normally the way you are studying, if you are studying the newspapers, if you are studying any such current affair source, so that would be enough to cover it. And if you are not able to cover it, so I don't think that any of the other magazines are covering it. Then let's come to the next part. So here I have added few more things. I'll tell it from I have written in this particular copy. So to just give you a sense of understanding about the number of the questions in last 10 years actually. Okay. So total number of the questions, as you can see, that 41 from the essential material. What is essential material? That you have done in the classes. Then many of you may be doing from some essential source. Then जो इन्होंने क्लास नहीं की है तो कुछ न कोई किताब पढ़ रहे होगे. So what is essential material? NCRTs and the class notes then that you are doing. Then so 41 out of the 49 question, you can do 41 from the essential material. How much is it? 80%. Then, so 80% you can do if you are doing it from your class notes and the conventional sources, that is NCRTs. Then, but then comes, so to unconventional, this unconventional, I'm keeping it as a, that mix of the current affair and then also some sort of static information. Then essential news also, and then 3 reference material. So ये ऐसे questions हैं जो easy नहीं हैं. So for example, that अभी थोड़ी देर में we'll be talking about that, and many of you have been in the classes, so we have discussed this part in the class also, that Desir Katha question, Baba Valgaonkar question. I'll tell you something else then, that Gandhi became the member, president of the Swarajya Sabha, okay? And what was Swarajya Sabha? It was converted from the Home Rule League. Then this particular information, it was not given in any of the book which are available in the market. Then the guidebooks that we are studying. एक किताब थी, and then the writer is Savita Singh. Nobody knows that who is Savita Singh. Then, so these type of the questions are highly difficult question. But then, now, come to the point, if you want, so you can note it down. So I'll tell you the cutoff and also the number of the questions, side by side. So 2011 से ये exam start हुआ था, CSAT exam, but I'm counting from the 2013. So in 2013, 6 questions were there from the modern. Then 2016, 6 questions. 2014, 5 questions. 15 में 8 questions. 2015, 8 questions. 2016, 6 questions. 2017, 4 questions. 18 में 2018, 12 questions. 2019, 4 questions. Then 2020, 7 questions. 2021, 8 questions. 2022, 4 questions. 2023, 3 questions. Then the average of the last 10 years comes around 7 questions from the modern. Okay? So this is what we have discussed in the classes also, that average number of the question from the modern is the 7 questions. Then now maxima minima, as you can see, कि सबसे कम last year था, this 2023, 3 questions. Then and then सबसे ज़्यादा in 2018 it was 12 questions. So it hasn't crossed 12 questions. Then apart from it, let's look at the cutoff. So एक बार ध्यान से समझना, that till 2014, starting from 2011 till 2014, the cutoff was decided on 400 marks. The 400, even GS and CSAT both were included. So in 2013, cutoff was 241, and 2013 241, and 2014 it was 205. Now let's come to the trend in which you are giving exam, in which the CSAT portion is just a qualifying. So इसमें 2015 में 107.34, then 2016 116, then 2017 105.34, 2018 cutoff 98, 2019 cutoff 98, 2020 92.51, 2021 87.54, and this is general category cutoff I'm telling you, okay? 2022 82.22 is the cutoff, and this year it is anticipated to be somewhere in between 82 to 85. So abhi jaise I think by 15th of April the interviews would be over, 15th or 16th if I'm right, and by 25th of the April results would be out. So results out hone ke baad then previous year cutoff they used to provide, then so they will be providing. So why I'm giving you this data, it is important for you to know that from 2018 onwards and this year till 2023, what has been the trend of the cutoff? Less than 45%, okay? So less than 50% you can say, and then it is further going less than 45%. So, and that's for the general category. Then other categories, OBC और जनरल में बहुत फर्क नहीं है, एक नंबर का शायद आगे पीछे या 0.34 0.32 इतना ही डिफरेंस होता है. Then the other categories there is a little bit of difference, but then in these two categories there is no much difference. Then so now understand that cutoff is going so low. Then and in this scenario when the cutoff is going low, you know what becomes most important? This exam is not about just testing your knowledge. Actually, it is not just about testing your knowledge. It is also about testing your personality, that what all traits are there in your personality. Then one of the very important trait that has to be tested in you is your decision-making ability. Then that do you hover around one question for long time? waste your time on one question for long time, or you are very quick in decision making that this is what I know, this is what I don't know. For example, that when you become civil servant, then very important trait is that to know where to speak, where not to speak. Okay? Where to speak, where not to speak. Where to hold your hand, where to open your hand. Then, so this is a very important trait, that you must be understanding the gravity of the situation. And in fact, it's not just through your interpersonal communication, interviews. It is not only assessed through it, but it is also assessed through the paper. Then that where you are very decisive, you are not emotional about a particular aspect. As you know, देखो कोई भी पार्ट सिलेबस में बिना मतलब के नहीं रखा हुआ है, ठीक है? All the parts, what is emotional intelligence? You all must be reading in the ethics classes. So this is emotional intelligence, that you are not going to waste your time on a question. Many a times what happens, that just to take a good feel after the exam, we try to attempt all the 100 questions. Then, so we try to attempt all the 100 questions कि अच्छा लगेगा कि 100 किया है, ठीक है? Maybe कि clear हो जाएगा इसमें, a pseudo hope would be there. But then in that way what you are doing, that हिंदी में एक word होता है ना तुक्का. So हर जगह नहीं भिड़ाना चाहिए. So wherever you don't know, just leave it. Just leave it. This is an important trait. And then moreover, on the basis of it, that how much questions you are correcting and कितना तुम्हारा wrong हो रहा है वो decide होता है. So this is one part. Now some of the facts would be very difficult. Then and in history what we have observed कि आज से 2018 के पहले, ठीक है, the questions which were asked from the particularly from the modern section, they used to be little easier. Then मतलब कुछ questions मतलब were very easier, and only few questions were highly factual in nature, but then the 80 to 85% portion used to be easier. But nowadays what they have done in last 4-5 years, not only they have increased a little bit of complexity in the modern, but then also the facts have also become little tough. Then so little tough. So the year in which you will be giving exam, that year the question is tough. Okay? The people who will give exam in the next year, for them it is easy because already it is available in the market. Then and every book also. So now you need to understand and you need to develop this habit कि कहाँ पे किस question को छोड़ना है और किस question को पकड़ना है. Then another my side suggestion, ठीक है, not a suggestion but then it is a important recommendation. And recommendation is that whenever you are solving the paper, then so just take your pen, read the question with pen. Don't leave your pen. The pen which you will be using in the OMR sheet, then for encircling the things, use the pen to read the question, so that if you are reading it with the pen, your attention increases. It's scientifically proven that your attention increases, and then you are able to minimize your human errors. Then and then also you are able to read the question properly. So do this exercise. Then so now let's come to the next part of it. After it, and इसके पहले before I enter into this particular part की question or question के explanation, I just want some queries from your side, that what you want to ask right now before going into the explanation. अगर जो कोई सवाल है तो बताओ. Mics are there, and then it will be given to you. It will work. You speak. तब तक हाथ उठाना, जिसको भी क्वेश्चन पूछना होगा, रेज योर हैंड, सो देन I'll ask that.
सर जैसा कि हम लोग देख रहे हैं क्वेश्चंस हार्ड हो रहा है.
हाँ.
तो पेपर देते टाइम 20 क्वेश्चन से ऐसा होता है जो आ रहा होता है सर. तो इस टाइम तो तुक्का ही लगाना पड़ता है. It was not a part of joke, please.
No, it's not the part of joke, but then see, तुक्के से एग्जाम क्लियर नहीं होता है. There is something which is called as subconscious memory. You don't know that you call it tukka.
So we can say intelligent guessing, but the whole thing is tukka.
Complete कर दे दो, ठीक है? That initially what happens, that we were also in the examination process, and then many people, n number of the people have been in the examination process, those who have cleared. So I have a vivid interaction with the students all over India. So what I found, and that was also my experience, that when I open the question paper, तो question paper open होते लगता था that 30 से ज़्यादा तो नहीं आता है, ठीक है? This is a reality, that I don't know anything beyond the 30 questions. Then this is what happens. But then when you start reading the questions, ठीक है, properly, and then after what you called intelligent guessing, obviously it is not tukka. Intelligent guessing is not tukka. So then your subconscious memory comes to play. There are two type of the memories, conscious memory. So conscious memory, what happens that if I ask some question to you, maybe उसका जवाब तुरंत ना दे पाओ, मैं चार उसके अगर जो alternatives दे दूं, चार अगर जो options दे दूं, so if I'm giving you 4 options, then your mind strikes, I think this is the answer. So it is not tukka, it is your subconscious memory. So don't, I would not say this thing. Tukka is something that कि चार सवाल हैं, and then, 4 options are there, I don't know anything about it, even that elimination is not there. So what I'm doing that I'm putting my 4 fingers in mouth, जो ज़्यादा कट जाए, वो लगा देते हैं, ये A है, ये B है, ये C है, ये D है, ठीक है? So I'm talking about this one. So your subconscious memory will come to your rescue. And moreover, remember that when you are revising, एक बार पढ़ने के बाद, then if you have done one study, obviously you are not a superhuman. कि एक बार पढ़ने के बाद then everything you will be able to memorize. It takes n number of the reading and revising, then you will be able to memorize. So after 3rd, 4th reading, it is said that if you scientifically go ahead with it, so 85% retention happens. If in scientific direction, if you are revising, you may be asking that what is scientific direction, I'll tell you later. So 85% retention would be there. And then after 5-6 readings, there is a 90% retention, and rest of the 10% depends upon the personality of the person. And then his own determination towards that particular exam, passion, that all decides that how you'll be retaining that 10% of the things. So have faith in your subconscious memory. That will come to your rescue. So वो 30 question जो लगता है question paper open करते, that I only know 30 questions, it turns out to be more than 65 questions when you are solving it. And that's why I said that hold your pen, okay? Read the questions properly. So you call it intelligent guessing, analysis, then yeah, elimination, सब कुछ इसी में आता है. Then so that will help you. And moreover, strategic facts. There are some facts which are strategic fact, and strategic facts comes to your rescue a number of the time. You were asking one question. पूछो.
My question was that whenever we are studying borderline important topics like autonomous states or regional states in their internal policies, how deep should we go? And so second question was whenever we are studying very important topics like British Act and policies, would you recommend that we should read the entire PDF of a certain British Act like 1773? Should we read entire PDF which is available on the internet, or should we just trust the basic resources and reference material, NCERT and other books?
I got it. Very good question you have asked, that how deep we need to go. Then, so first of all, that the very first part that you asked, that autonomous state and regional states, ये जो part है, ठीक है? So इससे questions. So always remember that no matter whatever that test papers you are giving in the market, then whichever test paper you are trying, but your eyes and ears are UPSC previous year paper. Then, so to go more deeper, I would say analyze more number of the years of the UPSC paper. Just go through it. Then, and when you are going through the, suppose that here we are, not suppose that we are going through the 7-year paper, but then if you want that you can put, or if you are in a zone where you can put little extra effort, so I would suggest that go through the 15-year paper. And this 15-year paper will give you clarity that which particular section to go deeper and which particular section to leave. Then, so nothing else will come to your rescue. This only thing that will come to your rescue is the previous year paper. So previous year paper you see that कितना पूछा है. जैसे इसी section में what we have seen that autonomous state से कोई question नहीं है last 7 year में, ठीक है? And if we go into the last 10 year, hardly one question is there. So then you can avoid. But then in mains section, we have seen the questions from the battles which have been fought at this point of time. 1 or 2 times that has been asked. So accordingly, you can moderate your preparation. You will be the moderator of your preparation. As far as the acts and policies are concerned, in acts and policies, I would say in this particular section, please look at the last 15-year paper. Okay? So please look at last 15-year paper, not just the 7-year paper. And at the same point of time, the facts which are asked, majorly they are given in all the books. Then, so जितने भी किताबें हैं market में, obviously it is a static portion. So कोई भी गलत fact तो mention नहीं कर रहा है. Then that everybody is mentioning that static faction only, and then at the same point of time, that in one act 10 to 15 things are given. Then so 10 to 15 things are given, and some acts 5 to 6 things are given. So take the most popular book in the market and and also if you have done classes anywhere, so what they have said, you can do 1 or 2 addition as per the previous year question paper. But then if you go too deeper, it will lead to the confusion. Then, so what it will do, that rather than you solving the question, then you will be confused and you will mark it incorrect. So बहुत deep जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Moreover, if you look at the 15-year paper, once again I'm emphasizing, so even if you have done a moderate preparation, moderate or little more than the moderate preparation, even in the acts and policy, you will be able to solve 85%. So your target must be 85%. 15% की कोई guarantee नहीं है. Then, so 15% की कोई guarantee नहीं है. And moreover, in some of the questions, जैसे एक question है, I'll tell you later that in that particular question, UPSC did not provide any answer. So that question was dropped and it was related to some acts and commission. Then, so UPSC dropped that question in that particular year. So it will come. अभी जब हम discussion में कल आगे बढ़ेंगे, so that question will come. So it also happens. So just go with the flow which is there in the UPSC market. Too deep पढ़ना, I think it will lead to the confusion. So you don't need to be in the zone of the confusion. ठीक है? One last question, then I'll go into the discussion. ठीक है? फिर बाद में second round में कर लेंगे questions. ठीक है?
Recently, UPSC geoscientist exam has conducted.
Which exam?
Geoscientist exam.
Geoscientist.
And
okay.
mostly the history question was from new NCRTs. They directly asked timeline and chronology. That is mentioned in the NCRTs and boxes. So is it the time to move towards new NCRTs?
See, it's not move towards. You can always, देखो, if you're reading NCRTs, you can always combine 2 NCRTs, one old and one new one. And it's not too hard to read the new one also. Hardly 140-50 pages are there. And moreover, these are there in the theme format. So in theme format, facts are less, themes are broader. Then, so you can always refer to it, but it all depends on that how much time you are devoting for a particular section. So for every person, it will differ from person to person, that तुमने कितनी preparation की है, कितना time बचा है, rest of the portion how you have prepared. So accordingly, you can invest your time in it. But then if you look at the paper, so जैसे you will be downloading this material and just look at it. So we have given the resources also that from where it has been asked. So old NCRT portion has been 75% and 25% of questions have been asked from the new NCRT, that is the theme part. Then, and mains may sometimes 1 or 2 questions has been there from the themes NCRT. So there is no issue in going into the new NCRT, but then not at the cost of the old NCRT. Still the questions are there from the old NCRT. Okay? So let's start with your question will deal later. Okay? Wait for it. We'll give you mic. So start karte hain. And then I have brought some new things also so that you get to know something extra also. Start kare. So I'm starting with the very first question.
Hello.
रुक जाओ अभी question नहीं. I'm going into it this part. Okay? So advent of Europeans. Then. So the very first question. देखो. So it was asked in 2018 and we have divided the themes by the, questions by the themes. So very first question, the staple commodity of export by English East India Company from Bengal in the middle of 18th century where, which means 1850s K around. Then, so middle of the 18th century, around 1750, sorry, not 1850. So what has been mentioned over here? Question dekho, raw cotton, oil seeds and opium. Then, so raw cotton, you all know that cotton was the native or domesticated plantation of India. First time it was grown in the Balochistan part of the Indian subcontinent, and then it was native plantation. In Indus Valley also, the cotton was there. So raw cotton seems to be correct. Oil seeds. Then, so can you tell me that the oil seeds which are in much demand all over the world, which oil seeds? Which one? Edible oil mein kaun sa? Palm oil. Good, very good, exactly. And is India the greatest exporter of the palm oil? We are importer of the palm oil. Okay? And where is the where we get? Indonesia. Good, very good. So oil seeds, and moreover, as far as the Indian oil seeds are concerned, mustard, it's only used in India. Nowadays, globalization of the cuisine is happening. So that's a modern phenomenon that mustard oil is used outside India also. But then Mustard oil is only preferred in India. So oil seeds के export नहीं होते थे उस time पे, ठीक है? So oil seeds is a incorrect option. Then, so in this way, it's not just कि ये पढ़ना ही है कहीं किसी किताब में दिया ही हुआ है. You will have to just be little observant that what is happening around you. Then let's come to sugar, salt, zinc, and lead. Then, so zinc, as far as the zinc and lead is concerned, this is not the time when there was too much of talk about the zinc. The main metals which were used by this point of time were basically that copper, okay? Then iron, aluminium, okay? So these and gold, opium, then silver. So zinc and lead is not there in the option. And salt का export क्यों होगा? Salt तो पूरी दुनिया में मिलता है. That everywhere coastal area, so salt is there. Then in fact, salt industry used to be one of the oldest industry, and in almost all the parts of the world it was practiced. Then so salt ka export to it's a very rare thing. Let's come to the copper, silver, gold, spices, and tea. So copper and silver easily you can negate. India doesn't have the great, so that we don't have the great reserves of the copper and silver. Copper में थोड़ा बहुत है भी, but we don't have the silver. Then silver we don't have, and silver generally you get it from the South American countries. Then so Argentinium, it is named Argentinium. AG is Argentinium, and the source is Argentina, original source. Then cotton, silk, salt, pepper, and opium. So I just want to tell you something regarding it. This is the right option, but then cotton. So cotton, as we mentioned, that cotton native of India or domesticated plant, that's what we say, of India or Indian subcontinent. There were many varieties of the cotton in the 1850s which were very popular, 1750s, which were very popular in the European part of the world. Then, and moreover, not only the North Indian cotton, but one of the very important variety of the cotton was calicos. Have you heard about it? So calicos. So calicos were in high demand in Europe. And what is calicos? So बहुत बार इसके पीछे, I think 2015 के पहले, there was one question where the word calicos was also mentioned in the paper. People they were not knowing that what is calicos. So calicos is the variety of the cotton from the calicut. Then, and there was a community, ठीक है, Chaliyas, ठीक है. So Chaliyas were the one who were weaving this cotton. And calicos is a rough variety of the cotton. So rough variety of the cotton handicraft. Moreover, it is thicker than the muslin cloth and thinner than the canvas. Canvas, you understand? जिसपे painting होती है. So thicker than the muslin and thinner than the canvas. So the why it was popular in the Europe? Because printing was happening in a very good manner in this particular cloth. So many Victorian and the floral prints of the Europe, then they were easily done on this particular part. So this was in demand. So in 1750s, then it was exported from India to the Dutch and then English and all the other places. Then comes silk. So silk, as we know, that main exporters of the silk in the world from ancient times are India and China. Then, so Guptas, they earned huge benefits. If you go into the ancient times, so Guptas earned huge benefits with the export of the silk to the Roman world. Then, and then Gupta's trade was cut by the Chinese, then who started supplying raw material to the Roman world. And moreover, they also taught them the technique of weaving the silk. Then, so this way, that silk was also one commodity. And at this time, when we are talking about the 1750s, Mysore to Kanchipuram was one big pocket of the silk or sericulture. Then, so silk and sericulture, and huge plantations used to be there in this area. So silk was also exported. Then let's come to the saltpeter. What is saltpeter? Potassium nitrate. Then potassium nitrate, and in Bihar, it's surprising that in Bihar, that saltpeter was, the sources of the saltpeter were there. I have that in those classes, those who have attended my classes, so they know that the story of the Jagat Seths. They became rich by selling saltpeter only. Okay? The very first Jagat Seth, Hiraran Sahu, who was based in Patna, and he started selling this saltpeter KNO3. And what is the use of the KNO3? It goes into the gunpowder, making of the gunpowder, and in Europe there was a huge demand of it. So all the European companies were running for this saltpeter. Now let's come to the opium. So opium, the story of the opium is very interesting. Then, and wherein was the opium domesticated plant of India or Indian subcontinent? It was not the domesticated native plantation of India. Originally, opium grows in the winter climate, okay? That jahan pe thodi winters thodi harsh ho, and basically not very harsh, but then moderate to little tough winter climate. So it was originally the plantation of the East Europe, and then Central Asia. So from East Europe and Central Asia, so how opium came to India? Just understand there is a story related to it. Then that British East India Company is already there in India from 1600s. Then and sorry, that created in 1600 and then it came in 1608. So by 1780s there is a consolidated position of the British East India Company in India. But then English traders have also entered into China, and this is the time that there are some beverages which are becoming very popular in the Europe. One of the beverage was tea, chai. Then so chai, as you go into the story of the chai or story of the tea. So what is the scientific name of the tea? Thea chinensis. Origin country, Chinensis, China. Then so they wanted tea from the China, and then it is to be sold in the European market. But then there was a difficulty that Chinese were demanding huge money for it, and then they were very reluctant in it. So there was one guy whose name was George McCartney. In 1793, he has made a journey to China, and the name of the Chinese ruler at that time was Kailong. Then he made a request to Kailong that first of all, he went to that place on the birthday occasion of this 83rd birthday occasion of the Kailong. And then not only he lavished praises on him, you know it that British, if they are not good in the gifts and the presentation, they are too good in appreciation. Then and the people will tend to believe that what they are appreciating. So he did a lavish praises of the Kailong, and then after he proposed that there must be some sort of trade with the company. And what trade? Tea trade. But then Chinese were demanding silver in lieu of the tea trade, and then there was not much silver with the Britain. But then somehow in the beginning they started with the silver, and then they started to find alternative. So what they did that from that part of the world, Central Asia and then Eastern Europe, they brought opium, and this opium was cultivated in Bihar and so as in Malwa. So this opium was cultivated, and then after that the triangular trade of the opium started. Okay? Europe to India, cultivation happening, and this opium is further traded in the China. People become addicted in the China about the opium. And then after it was an easy free trade for the Europeans. And in fact, in the history of the humanity, this was the first drug trade by anyone, and longest drug trade by anyone. So this is how they created the opium channel. So opium was a major commodity of export and going from India to China. Okay? But then opium was not the native plantation of India. I hope you got it. Then obviously that these much informations, then that it is difficult. But then बहुत सारी किताबों में जैसे इसमें mentioned है that old Bipin Chandra NCERT में you can find only that part कि opium was cultivated in India. So that is enough. So the question that you ask कि पुराना पढ़ना या नहीं पढ़ना है, so you yourself will see in this one that 75% of question can be traced to that part. So पुराना भी रखना है, time हो तो you can go ahead with the नया भी. So let's come to the question number 2. So how to go back? एक बार कर दो. So I'm reading the question for you guys. Then ये भी plant से related है. So which of the following group of plants? नहीं. हाँ. ठीक है. So let's come to the second question. Which one of the following group of plants was domesticated in the New World and introduced into the Old World? Then, so once again the question related to the plants only. Then, so question related to the plants only. So what is New World and what is Old World? First of all, let's inquire about it. What is New World? So Americas. Then, no, not Tordesillas. You're trying to say Tordesillas.
Sorry.
Not exactly. ठीक है.
Discovery of India.
Good, very good. So the part of the world which was discovered in the quest of the discovery of India, then that is called as the new world. Then, and the old world is already the oldest civilizations of the world. So oldest civilizations of the world, then that it includes India, it includes China, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and then Greek civilization, and then after these all, the development of the Europe. Then, so there was an interconnectivity between these all countries and these all areas. But then the new world, so new world was discovered, it was discovered after the Columbus discovery of America by Columbus. So it is also called as that the plants which were exchanged, these are called as the Columbus exchange. We'll come to it, but then first understand the story of the Columbus, that in 1475, around A75, he was not the native of the Portugal. Because in Portugal, Prince Henry the Navigator was, he happened to be the first king who was promoting the seafaring activity. He shifted over there to in expectation that he might give him the patronage, but then they did not give him patronage. Later on, it is the Spanish Queen Isabella. Then, so Spanish Queen Isabella who gave this patronage, and then after he started his seafaring activity. But then he thought that he is smart. Then, and actually his thought process was not wrong, because all over the world there was a conviction among the sailors that earth is round. Then majority of the people were taking their route, the African route, and they were moving towards the east when they are putting their boats in the Atlantic. So they were moving towards the east, but he thought that he can circumnavigate. Then he will take the opposite direction, maybe he may find a shorter route to India. And then in 1492 he landed in Bahamas. Then, so Bahamas, West Indies. He called it Indies in the beginning. West Indies to hum aaj bolte hain. Then, so he called it Indies, and then he had no idea that it is not India. So that was the discovery. But then after that discovery, what has happened? That much more adventures have been made into North America and South America. Then after, n number of the domesticated plants from that part of the world has come to this part of the world, and from this part of the world to that part of the world. And not just the plants, but also diseases and animals. Then, so diseases and animals. Then, so एक question आता है that बहुत बार, that many a times that some questions are asked that is this the native plantation of India, or is this the native plantation of which particular country? So not all the time you can get that idea, but some of you I hope must be well versed in the scientific names. Then, so scientific name में अगर जो किसी जगह का नाम, that name of a place is there, then so then you can easily figure out that it is the native of that particular country. So tell me that what is the scientific name of the rubber? Any idea? नहीं पता है. चलो normal पूछता हूँ, ठीक है? Scientific name of the mango. And what is in the last? So what would be the native country? India. Then tell me the scientific name of the bargad. Yes? So Ficus bengalensis. ठीक है? So Ficus bengalensis. So last में क्या है? बहुत बार, many a times UPSC also gives you the scientific name. So on that basis you can find it. कहाँ है Bengal? India. So it is native plantation of the India. Then I asked you rubber. So rubber is Hevia brasiliensis. नाम से easily clear है, Brazil. Then, but बहुत सारे ऐसे plants हैं. There are n number of the plants where you don't get the idea. So for example, that Astaivam Sataivam. What is it? Wheat. Then you don't get the idea that ये कहाँ से है. So उसमें you will have to do the exercise. But then in majority of the time, that most of the time in UPSC questions, you do find this kind of questions whereby indica या जगह का नाम होगा. So then you can easily identify that is the native plantation of India. So for example, neem, Azadirachta indica. Then, so that is also the native plantation of India. So then n number of the things where you can find indica or some sort of area of India, then or area of a particular country. So then that is the native plantation. So that is one way of observing the or arriving at the answer. So these type of the facts I consider or I say it as a strategic fact. ठीक है? या ये जो हम बात में कर रहे थे intelligent guessing. ठीक है? So now in this part, so tobacco, cocoa and rubber. ठीक है? So एक इसमें list बनी हुई है. I would suggest you, strongly recommend you to see this particular material where we have in a image format also we have given that what were those exchanges. Then so as far as the cocoa rubber जैसे इसमें mention है, तो rubber Hevia brasiliensis, तो इंडिया का नहीं है, ठीक है. So domesticated in the new world and introduced in the old world. Seems to be domesticated in the new world. Then rubber. Then what is cocoa? Cocoa is also the source of the chocolate, ठीक है. So chocolate pods. So cocoa was originally, last year a question tha, I am in the mains paper, but then since it is not the mains discussion, so it is related to the slavery. Then and then some of the crops which were the biggest symbol of the slavery, it includes the cocoa and it includes the sugarcane, ठीक है. Then comes the tea and the coffee. So cocoa were originally from the that American part, and then it was taken to the Ghana, Ivory Coast, Congo Basin, and the most discriminated slaveries have happened in this particular area related to this cocoa plantation. So where is Africa? Africa is the part of the old world. Then so this is also correct. And tobacco was also done in the same way, that it was originally the plantation of the new world, and then it was domesticated in this part of the world. So just go through this list, क्योंकि बहुत सारे हैं. Discussion is not easy, that all of it, so it will take a lot of time. But then here also, diseases also, I feel that some year they may ask you about the diseases. Then moreover, if you go into the scientific name of the cockroach, what is the scientific name of cockroach? Periplaneta americana. Last में क्या है? Americana. ठीक है? It came to the new world from old world from the new world, from America. Then so many a times you find the insect's name also, the source of those insects, and then the diseases which are arising from it, they are coming to this part of the world, or from this part of the world to that part of the world. Then so अगर जो एक क्वेश्चन पूछा जाए that bird flu, ठीक है, did it came from old world to new world or new world to old world? Old world to new world, ठीक है. Bird flu because chickens were the natives of the Asia, ठीक है, and particularly the Chinese and then entire East Asian nations. Then so and bird flu majorly started from the poultry breeds. Then so obviously it is from the old world and then it is transported to the new world. So you just look at it and इसको इससे देख के you can do further value addition in your part. Now let's come to the third question. So अभी एडवेंट ही चल रहा है. एडवेंट के 4 क्वेश्चन हैं लास्ट 7 years में. अचानक से थोड़े से ज़्यादा क्वेश्चंस हो गए, बट पहले भी earlier also they have asked the questions from the advent. It's not like that they haven't asked, and in fact some difficult questions also they have asked from the advent. So I'm just stopping here. एक पुराना क्वेश्चन बता रहा हूँ, ठीक है. There was a question, I think it was in 2010, and it was related to the Pondicherry. So you tell me, बताओ मुझे, that Pondicherry was for the very first time, it was the establishment of which European? Portuguese, ठीक है. And then who came at the second place? Dutch, ठीक है. So Portuguese were the first to create their establishment at the Pondicherry. Then they were replaced by the Dutch, ठीक है. And then Dutch were replaced by the French. Then so French were third to come at the Pondicherry. So these are the difficult, I would say this is the difficult one. In fact, even in your guidebooks, ठीक है, जिसको पूरी दुनिया पढ़ती है, उसमें भी अभी भी नहीं है, ठीक है. So 15% of question, keep it in your mind that 15% of question or 10% of question will always be out of your reach in the paper. Then no matter whatever source you have studied, then UPSC has the ways of asking it from the different sources. Then so उसके लिए परेशान नहीं होना. अच्छा, एक और चीज, that one more very important part, that how much prepared you are for the unpredictability. That in a joke many a times we say that UPSC is better called as Unpredictable Public Service Commission. Then so Unpredictable Public Service Commission, in reality it is, ठीक है. So every year they will be asking some new type of the question. So when entire market was emphasizing on that elimination को eliminate कर दिया last year. Then so that was eliminated, and now they started asking that how many pairs are correct, how many pairs are incorrect. See, if you look into those questions which has been asked last year, once you have done the course, एक बार modern पढ़ लिया है, so you will not feel that questions were difficult. Why questions became difficult? Because it was unpredictable. So I'll tell you one thing, that in 2011, when for the very first time the CSAT syllabus was introduced, and then GS paper 1 and then CSAT paper. So nobody knew that how many questions would be asked in the exam. In fact, in the UPSC notification, not even a single indication was given that how many questions they will be asking. Predictions हो रहे थे पूरे market में 150 question आएंगे, 200 questions आएंगे GS में. Then and earlier trend was that 120 questions used to be there in the GS paper, 150 question used to be in GS paper, and then also optional papers. Then so nobody knew. जब exam आया, question paper हुआ, ठीक है? Everybody was that obviously it was unpredictable thing, and then they got 100 question and 80 questions in the second section. Accordingly, people solved it. The cutoff went very low. Cutoff was 198. Then out of 400. So then next year paper, 2012 paper. 2012 paper is regarded as one of the most difficult papers of those time. Then moreover, एक question एक essay के बराबर था. You understanding? ठीक है? That ऐसा लग रहा है कि essay लिखा हुआ है. So such big questions were there. Paper was difficult, but the cutoff increased 209 because people were prepared. Then so understand that when you are prepared, unpredictability will not cause you harm. But when you are not prepared for the unpredictability, obviously your scores will go down. Okay? So you don't need to be panicked in this situation. So in fact, it is exam of the mental balance also. I'll not preach about it. There are a number of the people who are preaching in the market then. So I will just come to mudde ki baat. Okay? So let's come to the third question. In the first quarter, अच्छा ये question ऊपर चला गया. So as you can see, ये exchange वाले parts which is there. So you can look at it that these were the plants of the New World. These all it is mentioned, and that chill papers नहीं होता है, chilly होता है. So गलत लिखा हुआ है. So paper लेके तो कोई chill नहीं होता है, ठीक है? So obviously, so chilies and it is from the Chile only, ठीक है? तो बहुत easy है इनको trace करना, and then after these are the plants of the old world. Then एक और diagram है, you can go with this. हो सकता है picturesque memory will stay better with you, ठीक है? तो you can selectively use some of the part from it in your preparation. And ऐसे अगर जो देख रहे हैं तो it is in the world history book these plant thing is mentioned. Class 12th में है the new NCERT of the world history. Then in class 12th where the chapter, I think the initial chapter itself has mentioned about it. But then for that part, इसे कर लो, you don't need to go with the source. So let me go into the next question. Columbus aimed to do. कुछ ज़्यादा ही. In the first quarter of the 17th century, in which of the following was where the factory and factories of the English East India Company located? So Bharuch, Chikkakol and Trikonapalli. Okay? So Bharuch is in Gujarat. Then Chikkakol, Andhra. The present day name of the Chikkakol is Srikakulam. Okay? And Trikonapalli, Tiruchirappalli of the today's time. So let's eliminate this one. Okay? Easy to eliminate, and then it's a very easy factual question that almost all the books have mentioned, all the NCERTs have mentioned, and everybody's class notes also. So how the British adventure started? Then so British adventure started with Surat and Masulipatam. Okay? Surat and Masulipatam, and then after when Thomas Roe has got the permission, so then they have expanded to Bharuch, Ahmedabad. And then after Bharuch, Ahmedabad, 1633, Hariharpur near Balasore in Odisha. Then after they have gone to 1639 Madras. And after Madras, the next big move was the 1651 Hooghly. Okay? So Hooghly mein there were many confrontations, and then after the next one is 1668 Bombay in the matrimonial alliance in 1661 and transferred to the company on annual payment of the 10 pounds, on nominal amount of the 10 pounds. So 1668. 1691, one part of the Calcutta, okay? And that part was known as Sutnati. But then there are confrontations over there. And 1698, they are getting 3 villages near in the Calcutta, today's Calcutta, Kalikata, Sutnati and Govindpur. And then they are fortifying. So second fort of theirs is created. So these are the establishment. So as far as the Trikonapalli is concerned, in your course where you have studied Trikonapalli, कहाँ पे पढ़ा है? Seas of Arcot. Remember, then Siege of Arcot, that Anglo-French wars. You remember the Second Carnatic War. In the Second Carnatic War, Robert Clive is coming to prominence because of the Siege of Arcot. Then, and Siege of Arcot episode, that what is the idea? Then when Chanda Sahib is moving from the Arcot, then towards the Trikonpalli, and Trikonpalli was the habitation of a Muhammad Ali. Okay? So he wanted to defeat. So Trikonpalli was never ever a British settlement. It was their friend only, friend settlement. So it was not a British settlement. So you can remove Trikonpalli, okay, and Chikakol. So this is easy factual question, I would say. Then let's come to the difficult one which was asked in 2022. Okay? So write with reference to the Indian history, consider the following. Just give me 1 minute. So there are some places which are mentioned over here, but then I would say ki refer to the normal source for all the settlements. With reference to Indian history, consider the following statement. The Dutch established their factories, warehouses on the east coast on the lands granted to them by Gajapati rulers. यहीं पे रुक जाओ, ठीक है? Gajapati rulers. Then, so this is what I was saying to you कि जहाँ पे भी chronology लिखी है, ठीक है? Or from wherever you are doing the chronology. If you are reading from a book, I would strongly recommend write it on a paper, all the chronology, ठीक है? Write it on paper with your hand. You'll be better able to remember it. Then, so you'll be better able to remember it. And in this chronology, so you are mentioning some of the major kingdoms. In fact, that generally what happens that where we come across the information about the Gajapati rulers, actually the Odisha style of temple. In art and culture you have studied. Then, so Odisha style of sculpture. So Odisha style of sculpture, when it developed from 1100 to 1400, okay? And the two dynasties, in fact there were three dynasties who have promoted Odisha style of temple architecture. One was the Ganga rulers, then Gajapati rulers, and so as the Kesariya rulers. Local rulers were those who are from Odisha, they know that Kesariya dynasty. So they were the one who promoted it. And as far as the timeline of the Gajapatis are concerned, so it is somewhere from 1435 to 1535. Now you tell that when did the Dutch have arrived in India? In which year? 1605. The first warehouse of the Dutch was in Masulipatam. Then, so Masulipatam, and moreover, this Gajapati rulers, their rule is ending before 1550 itself. So it could not be a right option. It could not be a right option. And as far as the regime of the Dutch are concerned, so they have first gone into the Masulipatam, then which comes under the area of the Golconda, and then after they are going to the Pulicat, which is in Carnatic. Then they are going to the Surat, which is under the Mughal occupation. So slowly, so I can give you a list. If you want to write, तुम लिख सकते हो, ठीक है? If you want to write, so you can write that which all places were there with the Dutch. So Masulipatam, Surat, Pulicat, spelling मैं नहीं लिखूंगा, ठीक है? I leave it to you. Pulicat, Agra. So Bharuch had two settlements. One is the Dutch and English also. Okay? So Bharuch also. Then Kundapur, Kannanur, Cochin, Kollam. Kollam is also known as Quilon. Quillon. Kollam, Golconda, Bimli, Nizamapatnam, Cuddalore, 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 Nagapattinam, Tuticorin, and Travancore. Nagapattinam, Tuticorin. It's a major port of India in Tamil Nadu. Okay? And the old name of Tuticorin has also been asked last year paper. The ports, okay? Sangam age ports, Tutikodi. Okay? So you need to know. Then Travancore. So these are the main establishment of the Dutch in India. But then I'll tell you something a little bit more related to the Dutch. पहले बाकी की stories समझ लेते हैं, and then I'll go into a little bit of more of the Dutch in this class. So now, second is Alfonso de Albuquerque captured Goa from the Bijapur Sultanate. Then, so this is what happened in 1510. So as far as the Portuguese adventure in India is concerned, Portuguese initially Vasco da Gama, then Pedro Alvares Cabral, then once again Vasco da Gama, and then the Portuguese government deciding in 1505 they will not sell private sailors. Okay? So they will not be sending private sailors. Now they are sending viceroy. The very first viceroy was de Almeida, and then after Albuquerque. Then so Albuquerque is that his mandate was actually, so understand that what the king of the Portugal has said to him, that he has to capture some of the strategic areas. These strategic areas are the Strait of Hormuz, Strait of Malacca. Okay? So Strait of Hormuz and Strait of Malacca. But then in the process he has also captured Goa. Then, and how he captured, he got the support of some of the locals from that particular area, Goa. And in fact, there was one officer from the Vijayanagar kingdom, his name was Thimmana. Okay? And in majority of the test, Thimaya, and majority of the test he is also mentioned as Timoji. So Timoji, time and again he provided many such soldiers in capacity of the 4,000, 5,000, and total 2 battles happened in the Goa, and finally Goa was taken from the Bijapuri ruler Ismail Adil Shah. Okay? So that is happening in the 1510, and it all started from the October month, and by the December Goa is in the lap of the this particular Portuguese. Later, after 1529, Goa became the political headquarter of the Portuguese. Then let's come to the third one. The East India Company established a factory at Madras on a plot of land leased from the representative of the Vijayanagar Empire. So that second is correct. Third is also, so there was a village. The name of the village was Madras Patnam. Okay? And this is the village which British got from the ruler of the Chandragiri. And then who was the British officer at this point of time? His name was Francis Day. So he got it from the ruler of Chandragiri. And who was ruler of Chandragiri? He was the Nayak ruler of Chandragiri. And who were the Nayakas? They were the officers of the Vijayanagar kingdom. Okay? So in a way, it is Vijayanagar kingdom only. Then, so the second information is also correct. But then, why Madras was chosen by the British? Then, this could be a possible question in the upcoming times. Then, that unexplored areas. So why Madras was chosen, and for a very longer period of time. That Madras was, before the Battle of Palasi and Battle of Buxar, Madras happened to be the political headquarter of the British. So the reason is that the first and the foremost reason was that in the Madras area, in this village was known for very good, that highly skillful weaver community in the Madras Patnam. And they wanted that the services of these particular people, and one of the commodity was the calicos also. So the weavers from the Calicut, they have also moved to the Madras, and they wanted this particular community closer to this community. So that's how they have chosen. And initial business was the textile business over here. It is said that from the Madras Patnam, they have learnt many of the art of the weaving, and when the industrial revolution in Britain is picking up pace, then the skill which they have learnt from this area, they have applied over there in the city of the Manchester. Then, so that was one reason. Moreover, St. Fort George they created in the Madras Patnam. It was the first fortified area, okay, of the British in India. And apart from it, Madras, many a times it can be also called that which of the following cities of the British colonial empire were called as the melting pot. You understand what is melting pot? So here, the reference of the melting pot is in relation with the culture. Then, so there were people of the different cultures were coming to the Madras. So Dutch also, Nagapattinam, which we mentioned earlier, Nagapattinam is very closer to the Madras. Then, so even Dutch also wanted to be here, even Portuguese also wanted to be here, and that's how French also wanted to be here in this area. So many European cultural setups were placed in this particular 150 kilometer area. So Madras and in and around area of the Madras is often referred as the melting pot of the cultures. Then, so 2 and 3, then I need to tell you something related to the Dutch also, that what happened to them. And in fact, I'm not a bit satisfied with that what has been mentioned in the books, the guidebooks particularly, that what they have mentioned about the winding up of the business of the Dutch from India. So just listen little bit, ठीक है? हो सकता है कि थोड़ा डिस्कशन आज बड़ा चला जाए या छोटा चला जाए, तो आई होप यू आर हेयर विथ मी. टाइम है अभी हमारे पास, ठीक है, कल भी है. So now understand that why Dutch winded up their business from India. First of all, understand that it was the first joint stock company in the world. This is what I'm expecting, that if the question from the advent of Europeans is coming, so let's go a little bit deeper into it. Then, so why Dutch winded from India, and what was the initial status of the Dutch company? It was the first joint stock company of the company in the world. And what is joint stock company? Many such small companies which were there in the this particular part of the world, that Netherlands, they all combined by their government in March 1602 to create a one company, and the name of the company was VOC. Then, so the name of company was, just let me go into it. So VOC. Then, and in there, so Wosten Indies Ostreist Company. Pronunciation में ही फंस जाएंगे हम लोग, ठीक है? So leave it. So in Dutch language, this was the name. Then, moreover, that Dutch, as we know, that their interest was in the spice trade. Then, and so as the British also had the interest in the spice trade. In fact, it is said that these all European discoveries into the eastern part of the world was for three things: God, gold, and glory. Then, so God, gold, and glory, but the most important was the gold. And gold here is not the gold, it is profit. Then, so profit from the trade. What is glory? Glory is that creating colonization. And hegemony, what is hegemony? Dominance in that area. And then the last is the God, okay? So promotion of their religion. But then hum likhte pehle hain God, gold, and glory. So now this company was majorly interested in the profit, okay? Their interest was not in the God, and glory to tha, colonization they wanted. Then, so now so some of the spices, so initial discoveries in the world were driven by the spices. Then, and which were the most important spices in the world. So one is the black pepper, ठीक है? BP लिखा है, blood pressure मत समझना. Then black pepper, and then cardamom, cinnamon. But cinnamon बहुत late में it has become a major spice. I will not keep it in this category. So clove, nutmeg, and mace. So these were the 5 most important spices, and this is what was driving the world trade at that point of time. All the major companies were interested in these 5 spices. Then, so these 5 spices. Now understand, out of these, 2 are the native plantations of India, and these are this cardamom and black pepper. So these are the native or domesticated plantation of India, and these 3, they are the domesticated plantation of the Indonesia. Okay? So Indonesia. And moreover, then that mace and nutmeg यहाँ लिखा है, this is mace. So mace and nutmeg comes from one plant only. Okay? So now Dutch were interested in it, and then they were the richest company in the world also. In entire 1700s, in entire 1600s until 1750s, they were the richest company in the world. Moreover, they were the first multinational company in the world. Apart from it, the maritime traffic, you understand maritime traffic? So maritime traffic, as compared to all the European countries and their companies, so it was 5 times bigger than the next second. Okay? And what was the next second? English. Then, so it is said that in between 1600 to, I'm giving you right data. So in between 1605 to 1696, more than 3,000 Dutch ships have arrived in India and Indonesia. On the other hand, the count for Britain, it was just around 300 ships. Then, so it was just around 300 ships, which was 1/10, which increased to 1/5 later on. So Dutch operated near about, by 1750, they operated near about 150 ships to India and Indonesia from the Netherlands. So now understand that what they have done, that their major control was in Indonesia for these all spices, and they were for the spices in India also. what British did, that they have taken clove and nutmeg, okay, from Indonesia to India. So they brought it to India. Then just like they have done with the opium, so they brought it to India, clove and nutmeg. Cultivation of it started to happen over here. And then there were n number of the confrontation of the British and Dutch in this regard, that this is smuggling which is happening. At the same point of time, 1623 May, there was one fight in the Indonesia, and the name of the fight was Battle of Ambiona. Okay? So in the Battle of Ambiona, what happened? That Dutch, they killed 10 British officers in Indonesia. And from here onwards, n number of the time, they are fighting with each other. Okay? And that fight, though started in 1623, continued till 1750s. So Dutch, despite being the richest company and biggest traffic in the maritime trade, and then moreover multinational company, they winded from India because of the few things. Then, so what are those? First of all, that books में क्या लिखा हुआ कि, and this is also, we also, that generally जब हमें कम information देना हो, तो then we say that they winded up their operation in favor of the Indonesian islands, and they winded up from India. So 31st of December 1799, this company was winded up. Okay? This company was completely, VOC was winded up. The reason was the maritime trade was difficult to continue, okay? Because of the high cost, very high administrative cost. So why high administrative cost? Because they have more than 150 ships. Usko bar, there is a confrontation with the Portuguese, there is a confrontation with the French, there is a confrontation with the British. So then they had to increase their military presence on it. Then when they are increasing their military presence on it, so then obviously profit to aa raha hai, but kharche bhi ja rahe hain. So there is an increased administrative cost. Then, so that is one factor. Then when the increased administrative cost would be there, so obviously what will happen? That company will decide to decrease the salaries of the people. Then those who are employees. Then, so when they are decreasing the salaries of the employees, so then what will happen? Corruption. Okay? So there was a corruption. Then apart from the corruption, the third reason was that no more spice was driving the world trade by 1800. Then, so spices have driven the world trade only till 1700, 1720s and 30s. Then, but then by 1800, spices were not driving the trade. Now the world trade was driven by the new crops. What are those? Tea, sugarcane, coffee. Okay? So tea, sugarcane, coffee, and then apart from it, many such drugs also. So they were driven by it. So spices did not remain as a kind of the major trading commodity. So that's how now they were in hell lot of pressure and their profits were going down. And in this scenario, it was better to them to wind up the company itself. And that's how they continued with their occupation of some of the areas. So Dutch have occupied which all countries? हो सकता है आगे ये भी सब questions हो सकते हैं. Indonesia तो सबको पता है. Taiwan, okay? So they have occupied Taiwan. And have you heard the name that Taiwan is also called as Formosa? Okay? So that name was given by them. And then that Dutch came to Indonesia at which place? Batam. Okay? They called it Batam and Batavia. It was not the name. The name of the place was Jakarta. Jakarta. Okay? So Jakarta, it seems like a Hindi name. It seems like an Indian name. That was actually Indian name. Because of the Indian religion influence in the Indonesia, Dutch burnt this entire city of the Jakarta. Then, and they named it Batavia. And then later on, once again, it became Jakarta. So original name was Jakarta. So that is there. Then they had occupation in Japan also. They had occupation in Vietnam also. They had occupation in Thailand also and Singapore also. So these were the Dutch occupation in the East, Southeast Asia and also in the East Asia. So let's go into the next part. I hope you got the answer. ठीक है, चले आगे चले. कोई सवाल है? चलो, I'm stopping over here. So if only 3 questions, raise करो. You have already asked. किसी और को मौका दे दो. बाद में पूछ लेना तुम मेरे से, ठीक है? जो लोगों ने नहीं पूछा है. So raise your hand and then the mic will go to you. नहीं पूछना है? Very good. तुम ही पूछ लो. पूछो.
सर अब अटेम्प्ट देते हैं ना सर मॉडर्न का, अगर 3 ऑप्शन दिए में लास्ट वाला नन, तो 2 ऑप्शन पता है, थर्ड वाला पता नहीं है, तो क्या करना? लाइक लक और
So you are asking that in the 50% scenario, okay? So I would say that if in exam, so 50% scenario will always be the 50%. So in this scenario, what you do, that identify the questions where these kind of things are there. Suppose that कि 100 questions कर ले, 100 questions में तुमको 4 question ऐसे मिले जिसमें that 2 options are known to you and 2 are not known to you. Then so do the 50% of the 4 question. Take risk in only 2, leave 2.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Then
Sir, when I was studying all the major spices which were in demand, like black pepper, cardamom, and cinnamon, I was also curious about what were the major sites and where they were produced. So
major sites,
major places where they were
but then,
cultivated
see,
or produced.
whenever you are, see, curiosity is one part. Then you must be curious, and that you can find, that you can search and research about it. But then if you see it from the perspective of the exam, so you will have to look at that what has been asked. So sites they don't ask generally. And then native plantation is the question and domestication is the question that they do ask. Then so already we have mentioned that कि देखो इसी से पता चल जा रहा है कि अब जैसे देखो black pepper and cardamom, where it is used, then it is in the Malabar coast of India, ठीक है, the entire Nilgiri hills, then Cardamom hills, Palni hills, then so in India these are the major sites. Then apart from it, if you want to know clove यहाँ से कहाँ लेके गए, so clove was not only in India, they brought it to India, but British have taken it to Zanzibar also, ठीक है, you know Zanzibar. So Zanzibar, they have taken to Zanzibar also. Then because Zanzibar, even Madagascar also. So wherever the Indian type of climate or Indonesian type of climate is there, so they were introducing in those places. So यहाँ पे भी थोड़ा सा दिमाग लगा सकते हो. That little bit of that intelligence, that what he said, that intelligent guessing you can do. And obviously we know that where in which all parts of the world that similar type of the climates would be there. So for example, that what type of climate is there in the Britain? Marine climate. Then you know na, marine climate. So in marine climate, the Indian things cannot be introduced. Similarly, in Mediterranean, okay, it is very different climate. Then Mediterranean is mainly known for the citrus fruits. So ये भी जैसे वो list दिया हुआ है ना, उससे भी पता कर सकते हो, ठीक है? So Mediterranean is known for the citrus fruit, and Mediterranean is also known for the olives. Then so many a times, जैसे देखो, many a times this information or this kind of the fact you don't get to know only from the books, but also from the observation. If you're seeing movies, maybe some information is coming from the movies, some documentaries. So that is also source. So in this exam, it is important to keep your eyes and ear open. सब जगह से ज्ञान बट रहा है, बटोर लो.
Sir, one question.
कौन है? Raise
Yes,
your
sir,
hand.
on the right side.
Yes, please ask.
Sir, on the similar line, the thing just you said,
हाँ.
it seems like for the last, I think after 2018, questions are more focused on the ideas, like they are combining many facts and they are combining like cultural exchange. The question that you shared previously, like
Yes.
गजपति ruler और उनका क्या relation था और इनका क्या relation था. The question is, ये स्टैंडर्ड टेक्स्ट बुक्स है वो कवर नहीं कर पा रही है, सो शुड वी गो इनटू इंटरनेट और कितना डेप्थ में पढ़ना है उस चीज.
वही तो मैं कह रहा हूँ. Go with the standard only. There is no need of going into the deeper part. See, the 15% area is the uncovered zone. It's only your luck that with some sort of guessing, okay, or some sort of kind of that external information if you have, so sometimes you can mark it correct. But then for those sources, if you're running, so it is, particularly this is history. In history paper or in history subject, there is no limitation of the books. There is no guarantee that even if you have studied 2500 pages, the question will come from that. Then, so question, even you are considering that you are doing the research and then यहाँ से मुझे लग रहा है कि the question will be coming. But then nobody knows that what is there in the mind of the UPSC. It might be asking some different areas. And that's how different areas have been there in the exam. Then, तो उतना जद्दोजहद करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. So go with the normal sources. इसी सोर्सेस से सबके प्रीलिम्स भी क्लियर होते हैं और इसी सोर्सेस से सब लोग टॉपर भी बनते हैं. कोई एडिशनल सोर्स नहीं करता है. So whatever that is popular in the market, I'm not taking the names, whatever you are doing, we have done n number of the discussions in the classes also, or maybe you must have also done with the many such people. So I think that will be enough. Okay? That yes. The normal sources. Deeper study, to फिर then it will become, you just look at the name of the papers, general studies. It is not the specialist studies. Specialist studies के लिए specialist exam है. So for example, that Indian Economic Services, that is a specialist exam. But UPSC is not a specialist exam. It is a general exam. So we will have to keep our knowledge based general wider, okay? But not so deeper. So what third question, every time I'll be giving 3 opportunities. Anyone from that part you are asking? ठीक है.
Sir, I want to ask the question from note making part. Like
Yes.
after studying the standard books or the notes we have covered, if I'm comfortable with the notes only and the standard books which I have highlighted, is it necessary to make notes, additional notes also from that part, or is it suffice to go? Because some say कि last time पे आपको शॉर्ट उसको करने के लिए आपको पेजेस भी पलटना आपको मुश्किल लगेगा, तो शुड आई गो विद दैट और इज इट ओके?
It's everything is personal. I would say this thing: one size fit all will not be the approach. We all have different traits. We all have different level of the intellect, and we all have different strengths. Then, so first of all, that you will have to identify that what is your strength. Then, as far as the note making is concerned, there is a good aspect of it that in note making, that memorization happens on a better level. Then, so for example, that once you have studied, once you have done it in the classes, once you have studied, once you have listened, and then you're writing, so then there is a three-way emphasization. Then, so the writing memory also goes with you. So note making in that regard is good. As far as the last time revision is concerned, I agree with you that it is difficult to revise a book of 700 pages in the last week, because history is not the only subject that you need to revise. There are n number of the subject. There is environment, there is political, that polity, economy, okay? Everything is there. Then, so everything, so if the short notes are there, so then you can revise. But then it also depends that have you created it, okay? In these 2 months, since it is closer to this prelims, so objective is to address the demand of this prelims. So from this time you cannot create. If you are creating it, so you are wasting your time. So for next, maybe that after this you are preparing for the next exam, so then you can go ahead with the creation of the short notes. But then I would say that avoid it if you have not created by this point of time, so avoid it and just go through the class notes itself. Okay? And whatever sources that you have referred.
Thank you.
Then, so you were asking, that is the last question, and then I'll go into the discussion. Okay?
हेलो सर, एक्चुअली वाला क्वेश्चन कंप्लीट नहीं कर पाया था. तो सर जो 4 मेजर स्पाइसेस थे उनमें 3 स्पाइसेस का जब मैंने इसकी डिटेल देखी तो उनकी मेजर साइट्स मिल गई. तो पहला क्वेश्चन तो ये था सर कि सब कुछ तो केरला, कर्नाटका और गुजरात मतलब ईस्टर्न कोस्ट में ही था. तो स्पाइसेस ट्रेड का वेस्टर्न कोस्ट से क्या लेना देना था?
वेस्टर्न कोस्ट में था सब कुछ.
सॉरी. और ये था कि सर कुछ स्पाइसेस के जो कहते हैं जो प्रोडक्शन प्लेसेस हैं उनके ऊपर कोई डिटेल नहीं है. जैसे सर कहते हैं ब्लैक पेपर, सिनेमन, कार्डमन का मिल गया, नटमेग के बारे में नहीं दिया हुआ है.
गुड ना, डिटेल नहीं है.
मतलब सर आपने अभी कहा कि प्लेसेस याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बस जहां ट्रांसफर हो उसको याद करना.
see that broader sites are given. Specific sites ना तो पूछा गया है, ठीक है, ना required है. And broader sites you already know. So for example, अगर जो मान लो हम कॉफी की ही बात करें इंडिया में, ठीक है, so there is that Baba Budan Hills, which started with the Baba Budan Hills. It was named after a person who brought it from Ethiopia, ठीक है, Coffea arabica, from the Arab world. So coffee is the domesticated plant of the Arab world, Ethiopia, okay? And then Baba Budan brought it over here, and then after cultivated in hill, that came to be known as Baba Budan. So the major areas is the Kurg, Chikmagalur. But then if you really want, so इसमें तो नए research भी तुमको जाने पड़ेंगे. That for example the state reports also. So केरला का उठाओ, तो केरला के state reports में you will be getting it कि कहाँ पे cultivation होता है. So I'll tell you that it happens in the Kollam, it happens in the Munnar. Then if you go into the other side of the hill of the Kerala, Bodhi, Theni, ठीक है, Coimbatore, then Ooty. So these are the areas where the major spices are cultivated. But then you will have to, when you are going into the details of a particular plant, you put that cardamom in Google. So then you get to know all the details of the cardamom, where it is cultivated, and what is the nature, what is the factor which is behind it. So it is planted on the shadow part of the hills, then not on the lighted parts of the hill. So ये ज़रूरत ही नहीं है, ठीक है? Until and unless you are the student of the botany, then it is required. But then otherwise in history paper it is not required. Broader areas if you know, that is enough. Okay? So let's go into the second part. Economic impact of the British policy. So economic impact of the British policy. इसमें वापस चलते हैं backstage. So menu, just give me 1 minute. नीचे से है ना? दिख ही नहीं रहा है. So now, come to the question number 5. ठीक है, इसके बाद So, who among the following way was associated with the introduction of the Rayatwadi settlement in India during the British rule? Okay. So, Rayatwadi settlement. Then, so now already answer is there before you. That what is it? So this is basically the economic policy of the British. And what is economic policy? Land revenue settlements. Then, so to further gain the revenue or sustainable source of the income, to create a sustainable source of income. So the first to be implemented on a broader area was the permanent settlement, then introduced by Lord Cornwallis in 1793 from Bengal, Bihar, but later on extended to Odisha, area of Varanasi, and so as the northern districts of the Madras. Then, so 19% area it covered. Then, so that is permanent settlement. Now the second settlement was the Rayatwadi. So Rayatwadi as an experiment, it was used by Captain Reed. Then, so Captain Reed full name is Alexander Reed. Then, so Alexander Reed, and then with the help of the Thomas Munro in the area of Baramahal, and in 1792. If you are aware enough, so 1792 was the last year of the fight of the third Anglo-Mysore war. Tipu Sultan defeated by the four partners, and then partners looted half the territory of the Tipu Sultan Mysore. So what are the territories? Malabar, Baramahal, and Dindigul and Kannanur. These were the four territories. So Baramahal area has gone to the British, and there they experimented this particular project in 1792. So initially it was introduced in 1792, but the firm implementation happened in the 1820. Then in the area of the Madras, and then later on in the Bombay Presidency. Okay? Then let's come to the third one. Okay? Mehalwari settlement. So Mehalwari settlement was suggested by Holt Mackenzie. 1819 it was introduced in the North India, Western UP, and Northwest India, which covered 30% area of the India. So you have already studied about it, and it is expected that you might get some sort of question related to the land revenue settlements. So iske pehle, I think before 2017 there were 2 questions, and after 2017 there were 2 questions. So those 3 saal ho chuka hai, there might be a possibility of a question from this area. So you can pay a little bit of more emphasis to this particular area. Then let's come to the next one question. So question in this one, there are few stuff which is given over here. You can take a overview of it, but then I would rather suggest कि कुछ additional मिले तो लिख लेना, but otherwise go with your normal source. So economically, one of the results of the British rule in India in the 19th century was the, okay? So 19th century, 1800 to 1900, okay? That is what 1800 to 1899. That is the period they are asking. And in this period, so increase in the export of Indian handicraft. Now I'm asking answers from you. Eliminate and tell me the reasons that will it be the answer. Kyo? So just understand that what was the impact of the British rule in India, or impact of the economic impact of the British rule in India. First of all, that economic impact of the British rule in India was the deindustrialization, meaning that the industries in India, they are not getting much support. Then they are not getting much support. In fact, let's go back to the medieval times. That when Akbar has assumed the leadership. So India at that point of time, by the time of his death, became second biggest GDP in the world. And then according to the economist of that time calculation. So calculation says that 22% of the world GDP was controlled by India. By the time of the Shah Jahan, okay, it was 24%. And then India has replaced China, and India has become the #1 GDP in the world. India was the manufacturing hub in the world by that time. Bengal was the richest province by that time. Bengal was known for textile production, okay, jute production, then many other plantations. And Bengal goods were very much popular in the different parts of the world. Everybody was running for the Bengali goods. Then, so now in this regard, what has happened? That all was fine, but then industrial revolution started in Britain. And as you know, that industrial revolution cannot happen without the agricultural revolution. So in the base of the industrial revolution of the Britain was agricultural revolution of the Britain. And then after industrial revolution happened. So in this industrial revolution, what they are doing, that they are taking the raw material from India, and then machine made goods, okay? So machine made textiles. Now it was very cheaper for the Britain to produce those textiles. Then, so very cheap cost. Then on the other hand, in India, the machine made progress hasn't happened. So the cost of the textile or the Indian handicraft, obviously it is high. Then, but on the other hand, very cheap goods, manufactured goods are dumped into India. Then, moreover, there is a one-way free trade. We all know from the beginning, very long time, one-way free trade. So the British goods, when they are entering into India, there is no import duty on them. Then there is no such customs duty on them. But on the other hand, Indian products, if they are entering into any other market in the world, there was customs duty. So now this is how the ruination of the Indian handicraft has happened. Increase of export hasn't happened. Then it's very simple thing to know. So this would be the wrong option, but then growth in the number of the Indian owned factories. So what they have mentioned was इसमें पूरा question दिया नहीं है क्या? अच्छा, result was so growth in the number of the Indian owned factories. After 1850s, there was some growth of the Indian owned factory. This was the compulsion of the British authority. After the British, that 1858 Queen Victoria's proclamation, increased association of Indians. So some sort of Indian industries started to develop from the 1850s. You have studied about 1853, the first cotton mill in India, okay, at Bombay. So Dadabhai Kawas ji, he was a Parsi. So Kawas ji was the owner of the first jute, that first cotton mill. 1855 at Risra in Calcutta. So one Indian owned jute mill was created at Risra. So though the Indian industry, Tata's also emerged in this duration only. So Indian industries are there, okay? But then from the base 0 to 4, 5. So though increment is happening, but not in a big way. But this is not a wrong option. Then commercialization of Indian agriculture. So which one of the 19th century was the? So this is wrong option. Then this will also be the wrong option, because Indian owned industries are just 4, 5. And then British owned industries are near about 95%. So many such British people, in fact, ek yaad karo, that 1813 Charter Act of the 1813, what it did, that it allowed Christian missionaries to come to India, and by then it ended the trade monopoly, okay, of the British East India Company in India. However, they retained tea trade and trade with the China. But then this also ended by 1833. So large number of the European companies have already arrived in India. So in the ocean of the industries, 2, 3, 4 industries are owned by Indians, 95% by the Europeans. In fact, one of the very old company used to be the tea company, Lipton, Nestle, okay? So these all were also coming in this duration only. Then come to the next part. Commercialization of agriculture will come to the later. Rapid increase in the urban population. It is that India was never urbanized in the British rule. It never happened in that way. In fact, there is a ruralization of the Indian people has happened at this time. Those people who were working in the major towns of India, since the incomes have gone down, so people have started returning back to their rural strongholds. Then, in fact, because of it, there was an increased pressure on the peasantry, that on the land holdings in the village area, and it is further leading to the that impoverishment of the Indian peasants. So urbanization never happened in the rapid way till the time British were there in India. Their urban centers were few and they were not expanding in a big way. Then come to the third option, which is given, commercialization of Indian agriculture. So commercialization of Indian agriculture, we have studied it, okay? I don't know that how many of you have not studied over here, but then still, if you go into the notes, we have seen it in the land revenue settlements itself, that commercialization of agriculture has happened. And why commercialization of agriculture? To support the British industries. The raw material is taken from India, textile, okay? Cotton, jute, indigo. So large number of the raw materials, they are taken from India, and then they are supporting the British industries. So commercialization of agriculture is basically promotion of the cash crop instead of the cereals, okay? So wheat, pulses, these all things were to be given less space, and then more space was given to the cash crops. Then, so this was the reality, and actually it happened in a very rapid way in the 18th century. So this is also not a difficult question, you could have solved it. So this comes under the easy question type. Then let's come to the next question. That is, indigo cultivation in India declined by the beginning of 20th century. So just give me 1 minute. It is also an easy question. You all जिस भी सोर्स से किया है, हमने कुछ सोर्सेज यहाँ पे लिखे हैं, बट आई थिंक दैट कि हर सोर्स में मेंशन है, ठीक है. ऐसा कोई सोर्स नहीं होगा जहाँ पे मेंशन नहीं होगा, और ऐसी कोई भी क्लास नहीं होगी जहाँ पे लोगों ने पढ़ाया नहीं होगा, ठीक है. सो indigo cultivation in India declined by the beginning of the 20th century because of that. So indigo cultivation, you remember that कहीं और बहुत पीछे भी जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. That as far as the history of the indigo is concerned, you can read the history, but as far as the modern period is concerned, just go to the Gandhi's period, Champaran Satyagraha. Then, and in Champaran, what was the reason of the Champaran Satyagraha? That indigo plantation only. And the reason was Tinkatia system. So Tinkatia system, before 1860, अब एक बार ध्यान से समझना, before 1860, that the cultivators in the Bihar area, they were forced to cultivate indigo on 25% of their land holding, ठीक है. So एक बीघा is 20 kattha. This is the land measurement in the Bihar and UP. So kattha and bigha. So 20 kattha, 20 katthas are equivalent to 1 bigha. And earlier British planters have forced that they must be cultivating on the 5 katthas, okay, or 25% of the land indigo. But then there were so many revolts at this point of time, which is called as indigo revolts. And then Digambar Das, Vishnu Narayan Das, so many such leaders were there. After it, government changed the scenario, okay? So now what they did, that they brought Tinkatia system from 1867, whereby now the cultivators, they don't need to do 25%, but 20 में से 3, ठीक है? So this is the system which started from 1867. But then by 1890 in Germany, German blue synthetic dyes were created, and then after the dyes were fast also. Fast, you understand? कि obviously that कि जल्दी dilute नहीं होगा. It will be fast on the cloths. So the dye was fast also, cheaper production was also there, and then the popularity started to increase. Now it was issue for the indigo planters that their indigo was not sold. That now they needed to release the cultivators from the obligation of cultivating indigo, and that's how, so this problem came up, and in this, now you understand. So what is this question mentioned? मैं इसी में पढ़ता हूँ, मुझे इसमें मुड़ना पड़ रहा है. So indigo cultivation in India declined by the beginning of the 20th century because of the peasants' resistance to oppressive conduct of the planters. Its unprofitability in the world market because of the new invention. So this is the one thing, okay? This is the most. Second, the first one, oppressive conduct was there. There is no issue that there was no oppressive conduct. But then in these type of questions, you need to find the most relevant one. So the relevant one is the second one, that unprofitability in the world market because of the new invention. And what are the new inventions? German synthetic blue dyes. Then, so you have studied about it and rest of the options. You can easily national leaders opposition to the cultivation of indigo, government control over the planters. Then let's come to the next part. So what I'll do, just give me 1 minute. British Acts and Policy बहुत सारा बचा हुआ है, ठीक है? So we'll go into it. And if you want break, so I'll give you break also. Break चाहिए? एक last question कर लो. So listen to this last question. Which of the following statements correctly explain the impact of industrial revolution on India in the first half of the 19th century? ठीक है? ये question हम लोग कर चुके हैं क्या? No. So Indian handicraft discussion कर चुके हैं. Indian handicrafts were ruined. ठीक है? This discussion we did अभी थोड़ी देर पहले ही. How they were ruined? Because of the manufactured goods from the Britain. Then they are dumped into India, very cheap. It is very similar to the present situation with the China. Okay? The Chinese goods are too cheaper because the manufacturing cost is very low. They are dumping into the different markets. In fact, you can connect it at many places. So look at the solars, photovoltaic sales also. So in India, the Chinese solar panels were banned. Why they were banned? Because the cost is very cheaper. Even not just the Chinese, but US solar panels are banned in India. Then, or basically their cost, so not banned I would say, but then if they are entering into India, so high high customs duty is there, so that it become equivalent to the Indian solar panels. So this is just because of the very cheap manufactured goods from the China. So Indian handicraft was ruined in this particular part. Then action policies में थोड़े questions ज़्यादा हैं. So चलो, I'll give you 10-minute break, and then after we can continue. I'll give you after the break, we'll go into more discussion, ठीक है? क्योंकि देखो answers तो बताना इतना difficult नहीं होता है, but then the discussion is required. So now we'll go into the discussion of this particular part, the British action policy. इसमें जितने questions हैं, after doing it, we'll wind up. ठीक है? For today's class, it will be winded up, and then we'll go into the next part tomorrow. So let's start with it. So British Acts and Policies, as far as this part is concerned. So in the British Acts and Policy, 7 years, 12 questions. Then it almost speaks volume about this importance of this particular section. And if we go in the last 10-year paper, so we have 11 questions from this particular section. Then, and it is a predictable section also. As far as the nature of the questions are concerned, that deeper nature of the questions, I don't see that out of 11 questions in the last 10 year, मैं 7 year के beyond जा रहा हूँ, only 3 questions were there which were difficult. 8 you could have solved with the moderate depth के साथ ही जो कि classes में भी किया है या फिर then any source you have done. So let's go into it, since a little bit of more questions are there in this part. So in the context of Indian history, okay, just give me 1 minute. In the context of Indian history, the principle of diarchy refers to. So this is derived from the Latin word diarche. Diarche means that 2 governments. Okay? So 2 governments, and archy also means government or dominance or authority. Then it's a very easy question. You all know that division of the central legislature into 2 houses, this is bicameralism. Polity में ये सारे terms पढ़े होंगे. So this is bicameralism. Then introduction of the double governments, that is central and state government. Okay? It's not, it is federalism. Okay? So this is the terms that you use in the polity is federalism, that having 2 sets of ruler, one in London, another in Delhi. अब इसको बताओ इस term को क्या बोलोगे? 2 sets of ruler. Dominion, very good, exactly. So this will be the dominion status. So there would be a monarch, and under that purely autonomous rulers would be there. So that would be called as the dominion status. Then or self rule भी बोल सकते हो, ठीक है? The last one is division of the subjects delegated to the provinces in the 2 categories. So that is reserved subjects and transferred subjects. Reserves, generally the more important subjects were kept in the reserve, which includes the land revenue, which includes the finances, which includes the irrigation. It also included the forest, because forest is the source of the income. Then it also included the newspapers. Then newspaper, because it is the medium of the freedom of expression. Then so if British rule has to continue, so civil liberty has to be curtailed. So they will be looking at the newspapers. So that is also coming under this particular category. Transferred subjects, so it was given to the Indians. And when did this system started? Any idea? 1919, Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Government of India Act 1919 or Indian Councils Act of 1919. So in this particular part, that what is there? The 2 subjects were created in the provinces, transferred and the reserved. So transferred were under the popular ministers, and reserved were controlled by the governor through his council. Okay? Then transferred subjects, popular minister, what are there? So health hai, then education hai, then health, education, agriculture is kept in this category. Okay? So irrigation in the first category, in second category agriculture, and local governments are also there, and religious denomination are also there in this particular part. So that you need to remember. इसमें तो मतलब in fact books have mentioned, so these list you must remember. And this question, as someone was asking in the break, that 2 times अभी हाल फिलहाल में इस 7 years में 2 times there has been a question from the diarchy. So this is the first question. Let's go into the next question, which is related to the, so here there is a mix of the polity also. So in the federation established by the Government of India Act 1935, residuary powers were given to. So what are the residuary powers? which are not mentioned in any of the list. And what all list? That union list and then concurrent list and the state list. Okay? In those times it was called as federal, provincial and concurrent list. Then so residuary powers were given to the Governor General. Then so not to the federal legislature, not to the provincial legislature, not to the provincial governors, but to the Governor General. Now let's look at the today's time. So the future question could be, the residuary powers of the present day constitution is mentioned under which article? Article 248. Okay, so Article 248 mentions about that residuary powers, and Parliament has the right to decide on it. Then, so with respect to, if any matter which is not listed in the state list and the concurrent list, so then the Parliament has the right to create it. Okay, to create it, and then it will be under the supervision of the central government. Then, so here in this one, this is also a factual nature question, and as you were asking about, so it is not a difficult part. It is a easy one. I would say that easy to moderate question which was asked in this particular year. Then let's come to, अच्छा इसमें एक और चीज है, that there are some trends that you can note down in these all acts. And what are the trends? So let's talk about the trends, then we'll go into the discussion. So trends क्या है? That when we start after 1858, so these trends you must remember. First of all, in 1861, I'm giving you a brief overview from 1861 to 1935. So in 1861, that British government or British crown has felt that now is the need of associating Indians in the lawmaking process. Then, so they have created a 15-member Council of India in 1858 under Secretary of State. Now this 15-member Council of India will become Imperial Legislative Council or Imperial Council or Central Council. Okay? It will be given so many names. But then in this council, Indians were incorporated in 1861, both in the provinces and the center. Then, so both in the provinces and center as non-official member. So non-official member, at the same point of time, the official majority was maintained in the provinces and the center. What is official majority? British would be more in numbers. So this is the first thing. Now, what would be the next advancement? Increment in the number of Indians. So earlier, out of this 15, okay, or when it was expanded, so hardly 10 to 15% Indians were nominated in it. Now, 1885, Congress has been founded, and one of the initial demand of the Congress was increasing the number of the Indians in these councils. Then, so in 1892, the Act of 1892, what they have done, they have increased the number of Indians in both central and provincial legislative council, but still what they have done, they have maintained official majority. So Indians are not in majority. Then what about the 1909? What is the next trend? किसी जगह पे official majority दे दें, ठीक है? Sorry, non-official majority दे दें. So where they have given provinces. So in 1909, they have given non-official majority in the provinces, not in the center. Then, so this is the development till this point of time. Now, further autonomous rule will be given, or further more privileges will be given to Indians. So the reforms will always go in the upward direction. In 1919, diarchy was introduced. Then, and in diarchy, transferred and reserved subjects. So at least that Indians would be legislating on some of the subjects which we mentioned abhi piche diarchy mein. So what were those subjects? That reserved mein jo category tha, health, education, agriculture, local government, then what else? That religious denomination. So now more power has been given to them. So diarchy was over here. 1935, what was the next big trend or big ticket reform is that abolition of the diarchy in the provinces, and provincial autonomies was sought to be provided. Meaning that there are no two authorities and more powers or full autonomy is given to the provincial governments. So this was the next big ticket reform. So agar jo isko list karoge, that from there, that how it is happening, so there is a gradual progress, and that's the way to remember some of the provisions. So एक बार इस पे घर जाके सोच के देखना, and then you can list it. ठीक है? So let's come to the next part. So what is the question over here? Just give me 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Charter Act of 1813. Residuary powers we have already mentioned. Then consider the Montagu-Chelmsford reform. Consider Charter Act. Okay. So consider the following statement about the Charter Act of the 1813. It ended the trade monopoly of East India Company in India except for trade in tea and trade with China. Do you consider this is difficult? It's very easy one. As we mentioned ना कि क्या करना चाहिए तो अपने आप ही question देखते जाओ and then you'll get to know that it is not difficult. If you have done it in the classes, that's enough then. So that's the right information. It asserted the sovereignty of the British Crown over Indian territories held by the company. Then, so what is it? Paramountcy. We have mentioned a word. Then, if you have gone into the classes, so then that the aim of this particular act was to establish the British paramountcy in India. And what is British paramountcy? That the sovereignty of the Britain over the Indian states. Then, in fact, if you remember, अगर जो यहाँ से भी नहीं याद आ रहा है, so if you go into the phases of the colonization in the princely states, phase of equality for struggle, 1740 to 1765, and then what we mentioned, phase of नहीं याद आ रहा है, ring fence, 1765 to 1813, and phase of subordinate domination, ठीक है? So subordinate isolation, 1813 to 1858. So what is subordination? You are usurping the sovereignty of the Indian states. Then, so that is one. Then the third is the revenue of India were now controlled by the British Parliament. No, it will not be controlled. Still, the company rule is continuing. So British Parliament is not controlling the revenue. In fact, what they have asked, that company must separate the political account and the commercial account for the inquiry. So this is easy question. Then let's go into the next question. Consider the following statements. The Montagu-Chelmsford reforms of 1919 recommended, this was a difficult question which I was about to tell you, okay? So recommended granting voting rights to all the women above the age of 21. Can you give me a one word for it, that voting rights to all the women above age 21? Any one word? No, any one word. Adult suffrage or universal adult franchise. This is what word we use. So universal adult franchise. Now related to it, I'll tell you some of the developments. The second, you see, the Government of India Act 1935 gave women reserved seat in legislature. So second we'll come to, but let's talk about the very first one. So actually, not in India, not just in India, but also in the Britain, women didn't had voting rights till 1918. It's only in the 1918 that Britain gave voting rights to some of the women of the property. Okay? What is women of property? Meaning rich women of the Britain, they were given voting rights in Britain in 1918. In the Act of the 1919, accordingly, there were many such submissions from the side of the Indian women revolutionaries, and not revolutionaries, nationalists also. So Sarojini Naidu, everybody, that those all women, and then many of the Indian nationalists, they have submitted a request to the British authority that voting rights would be given to the women. Then, so now what has happened, that it did not mentioned about the adult suffrage. जो इसमें लिखा हुआ है, granting voting rights to the women above age of, all the women of age above 21. So it did not provided adult suffrage, but it provided voting right, but with terms and condition apply. Then, and what was the terms and condition apply? It said that voting rights can be given to the women, but it is up to the provincial government to decide on this matter. Okay? So up to the provincial government to decide on this matter. So laws would be created by the provincial governments, and moreover, maybe one province can decide that they will give the right to vote, but that does not mean that if Madras has given right to vote, so UP has also given right to vote. So it was not the scene. So actually, in reality, it was the Madras which was the first province to give right to vote. So in between 1919 to 1929, एक करके, all the British Indian provinces, they have provided right to vote to the women. But then, was it a universal adult franchise? No. It was not universal adult franchise. Only the women of the property, the rich women, income qualification criteria was already there. Then, so in this, those who are the rich women, those who have great properties, only they were given the right to vote. Then, and as far as the princely states are concerned, so the first princely state which has given the voting right to women was the Rajkot. Okay? So Rajkot has given it in 1923. Then, so now this is there. Then अब इस क्वेश्चन को एक और तरीका है सॉल्व करने का. द सेकेंड पार्ट इज बेसिकली, इफ यू रिमेंबर द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1935, टेल मी दैट हाउ मच परसेंटेज ऑफ द पीपल वेर गिवन दैट वोटिंग राइट्स इन द 1935 एक्ट. 10%, कुछ किताबों में 10% है और कहीं पे इट हैज बीन मेंशन्ड 12% ऑल्सो. ठीक है. सो if the 10 to 12% are included, so 10 to 12% में 6% women and 6% men. ठीक है. Is it all the women? Only 6% women of the India are adult above 21. So this logic you can also apply then if you are open to this particular part. The second is the Government of India Act 1935 gave women reserved seats in legislature. So not only the women, but it was also that you remember the Pune Pact, communal award. Then so communal award has reserved separate electorate for the depressed classes, but then it was abandoned when the Gandhi has gone into fast unto death. And in this what happened? So reserved seats were reserved for the depressed classes, and so as seats were also reserved for the women. So 1935 is the act. एक और तरीका है इसको solve करने का, that many a times we say that Indian Constitution traces 55% of its underpinnings from the Government of India Act 1935. So if the Indian Constitution gives voting rights to the women, so 55% possibility is there that it is coming from the that 1935. ठीक है. सो यहाँ पे चाहो तो अगर जो नहीं पता है ये इन्फॉर्मेशन तो रिस्क ले सकते हो. ठीक है. लेट्स कम टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. सो the next next question which could be there, which was the first province to provide the voting rights to the women. So you always remember it was the Madras, and in the mayor elections of the Madras, for the very first time women were given voting rights, and first women who was victorious, that was in the Madras province itself. Then let's come to the next question. Easy here, and then already we have discussed. So you can just see the question and एक बार पढ़ लो इसको. So in the Government of India Act 1919, the functions of the provincial governments were divided into reserved and transferred subjects. Which of the following were treated as reserved subjects? Administration of justice, local self-government, land revenue, and police. So where is local self-government? Transferred में है. ठीक है. Justice was in the first part. Land revenue income का है, and police is to control the. So जहाँ पे power ज़्यादा है and finances is more, that is in the reserved list. ठीक है. And then local self-government to maintain the local affairs. So that was in the second list. So it is once again moderate question. ठीक है. नहीं, not moderate. It is a easy question. Then दिस ईयर पेपर सबसे ईजीएस्ट क्वेश्चन, मुझे लगता है कि इससे ईजीएस्ट क्वेश्चन आज तक पूछा ही नहीं है. सो यू ऑल नो बाय विच वन ऑफ द फॉलोइंग एक्ट्स वाज द गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल डेजिग्नेटेड एज द गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया. Even a class 8th student will also give the answer to it. So William Bentinck 1833, and it has led to the centralization tendency of the Indian administration. Moreover, William Bentinck was given all the legislative and financial powers. The powers of the Bombay and Madras, legislative powers of the Bombay and Madras presidencies were curtailed, all of it given to the transfer to the William Bentinck. Then, and moreover, you have seen that how he has further centralized. So, for example, you remember that in judiciary part also, he has created judicial commissionaries, and then he has given charges of the judicial commissionaries to district collectors. Okay? So, he is the one who enforced the hands of the district collector. Moreover, he is the one who removed the office of the SP also and gave the charges to the district collector. So what is it? Centralization tendency which has happened. So this could be other type of the questions from the 1833. But 1833, अभी हम 7-year paper देख रहे हैं. If you see the 10-year paper, so 1833 is a favorite section of the UPSC. That generally, time and again, the questions has been asked from the 1833. Then, so let's go into, and so I would just say that ये जो हमने इसमें लिखा है, इसमें थोड़े से टाइपिंग एरर हैं कुछ थोड़ी बहुत, तो then you can leave it this part. I will get it corrected and then get it uploaded. So let's come to the, ये थोड़ा additional material was given. So much of thing. So now listen. Which of the following led to the introduction of English education in India? Charter Act of 1813. So Charter Act of 1813. Then second, what is it? General Committee of Public Instruction 1823, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. So now understand. Before 1813, what is the development in the education? 1781, Warren Hastings has created Calcutta Madrasa. Is it? So Calcutta Madrasa, not related to English education. Then 1791, Jonathan Duncan has created Sanskrit College at Banaras. Then, so Sanskrit College, obviously not for English. Then after, we don't mention any creation of the college. Only 1800, Wellesley created Fort William College. What was the purpose? वो भी question पूछ चुका है, ठीक है? So purpose was to train the civil servants. Then, so train the civil servant, but then the British government was not happy with him and they quashed all his decisions. What was the reason? That his spendings in the Maratha war. That was the time, ध्यान से समझना, that 1800 to 1805 was the time when Britain was more focused on Napoleonic danger. Then, so the rise of Napoleon, and they wanted to contest Napoleon. But what Wellesley has done, that Wellesley has gone into the fight with the Marathas, and British in the last battle, Battle of Asai and Laswari, that they were near defeated, and it has led to the hell lot of spendings from the British side. So in this scenario, it was not liked by the British government, and 1805 he was called back from India. Then, so he was called back from India despite he was victorious in the Maratha war. And then after, they quashed all his decisions, which included also this college, Fort William College, and they created Haileybury College for the civil servant training. So now, in this part, so let's further go into it. So 1813 Act. So what it said? What are the provisions? That it allocated 1 lakh rupees for the promotion of education among the Indian subjects. And which education? The Western scientific education. Okay? So Western scientific education, obviously. So now, this is one which is talking about the Western things and the languages also. Then same time, that for 10 years, this money was not made available. The reason was this controversy, Anglicist and the Orientalist controversy. So who are the Orientalist and who are Anglicist? It is not like that it is Indians are Orientalist and British are Anglicist. In the British scholars only, there was a division. Some of them were favoring the medium of education in Indian languages. So they were called as Orientalist, and they also wanted to promote Indian literature. So their names, I can tell you that who were there. So some of the names are like, I'll tell you. So H.H. Wilson and H.T. Prinsep, they were the Orientalist. These two guys, so इसमें लिखने की जगह नहीं है, Wilson and Prinsep, these were the Orientalists. They were favoring the Indian language education and promotion of the Indian literature also. But then the other people who were in the Anglicist, Charles Trevelyan and Elphinstone, these were the two guys who were favoring the Anglicist education. And moreover, interesting is that Raja Ram Mohan Roy backed Anglicist. He wanted English medium education in India, and so as the scientific education. So this controversy continued for 10 years. No such money was made available. In 1823, the General Committee on the Public Instruction, and it issued the little bit of that some money was released, and it said that for the time being, English would be the education. And then this controversy is also the part of it. So all the three will go as a correct in this particular part. Then let's come to the next one, Wood's dispatch. Regarding Wood's dispatch, which of the following statements are true? So question number 8, and what is it? So grant in aid system was introduced. Tell me, what is grant in aid? What is grant in aid? Grants in aid. Dekho, see that if you go with the simple definitions or just search about the simple definitions, half the work is done. Grants in aid is, obviously it is a financial help. Okay? It's a financial help provided by the superior authority to the subordinate authorities. सबसे पहले, ठीक है? So it is provided by the superior authority to the subordinate authorities. Then, so who is the superior authority? The British government, okay? So the central government of the Britain or central British government in India, they will be providing, it is their responsibility to provide the financial help to the subordinate bodies. And what are the subordinate bodies? Colleges, universities, and the schools. So grants in aid is a financial assistance, but बहुत simple है. It is provided by the superior authority to the subordinate authority for a particular purpose. And here the purpose is the education. ठीक है? So it recommended, how it recommended? अब ध्यान करो. That what is there? That downward filtration theory was maintained by Macaulay. Remember, there was one statement of the Macaulay during the Anglicist and Orientalist controversy. What he said, that at the end of the day, it was the Anglicists who were given favor. And in 1835, official language of India was changed from Persian to English. Then, so Anglicists were favored. That led to the introduction of the English education. But what Macaulay said at that time, that the entire Indian education system and the knowledge of the India can be reduced to one small book which is kept on the shelf of the London Library. Then he was the chairman of that committee which was constituted to solve this controversy, and then he said this word, and as such he was highly appreciated in the British Parliament, House of Lords, everywhere, and then they favored the English medium education. But then now 1 lakh rupee, is it enough for the Indians? That such a big population, when it comes to the loot of the British, they have looted in lakhs and lakhs. Then, but then when it comes to, so allocation to the education, just 1 lakh. So it was not too much. So what theory was proposed by Macaulay, supported by William Bentinck? Downward filtration theory. This money would be used for some, for educating some Indians, and in turn some Indians will be educating the other Indians. Then, so this way, slowly the education will trickle down to the masses. Then, so now Wood's dispatch, first it repudiated it. Okay? It rejected this downward filtration theory, and it said that it is the responsibility of the British government to educate the masses. Kya hai ye? This is grant in aid. Then that they will have to provide the financial assistance to the Indian institution. This is their responsibility. So that itself is another wording of the grants in aid. I hope you got it. Then let's come to the next one. Establishment of university was recommended. True. Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras University were created after it. And the third is English as the medium of instruction at all the level of education was recommended. No. 3 level of education: primary, secondary, and higher. Primary in vernacular medium, secondary in Anglo vernacular medium, mix of English and mix of Indian language, and the last one, higher education in college and universities in the English language. So the third is wrong. Easy question. This is also easy question. So, last jate I'll say something to you. Okay? So now let's come to the next one. With reference to the educational institutes during the colonial period. So with reference to educational institutes during colonial rule in India, consider the following pairs. Sanskrit College at Banaras, William Jones; Calcutta Madrasa, Warren Hastings; Fort William College, Arthur Wellesley. Okay? Is it Arthur Wellesley or Richard Wellesley? Richard Wellesley. Okay? So Arthur Wellesley was the Duke of Wellington. He was not there, though. चलो एक एक करके बताता हूँ. So Sanskrit College at Banaras by Jonathan Duncan in 1791. Then what about the William Jones? Interesting is the William Jones. Then, so William Jones, he was one of the soon judge of the Supreme Court. He was judge in the Supreme Court at Calcutta, but then he was a philologist. You understand what is philologist? The person who is interested in the study of the different languages. Okay? So he was interested in the study of the different languages of India, and moreover through languages, he wanted to explore the culture of India. 1784, he has founded Asiatic Society of Bengal. Okay? So Asiatic Society of Bengal. Now, if they ask you, that possible question could be this, that which of the following questions or which of the following statements are correct related to Asiatic Society of Bengal, founded by the judge of Supreme Court, can be correct. Then second one, that it was all about exploring the Indian culture, different facets of the Indian culture. The third option, that Asiatic Society of Bengal is a government of India body. So what is correct, what is wrong? 1 and 2 incorrect. And third is also not wrong. Third is also not wrong. So after India's independence, Government of India made it a governmental body. And Asiatic Society of Bengal, now it is once again, till this point of time, it is vested, that it is given the research modules of the Indian culture, further excavation, further exploration on the facets of the Indian culture, and so as the preservation of the Indian culture. So this could be one expected type of the things which they can ask. So 1784 it was founded by him. Then let's come to the next one. Calcutta Madrasa, as we mentioned, that Warren Hastings 1781, and traditional Islamic education. Then the last one, Fort William College, was by Richard Wellesley. So he was the Bengal Governor General, but Arthur Wellesley was Duke of Wellington, who was called, ab ye bhi samajh lo, that Duke of Wellington, he was called in the war, the last war in the Mysore, when the Tipu Sultan was defeated and killed. So in that fight, Arthur Wellesley was also there. Then, but he never became Governor General of Bengal. Then, so Fort William College. So ये छोटी छोटी चीजें हो सकती हैं. You can't, one will fault at this place, Arthur Wellesley पे, ठीक है? So you will have to be careful in this part. Then kitna page? Finally, the question is there. So this was a bit unnecessarily debated question when this came. Which one of the following statement does not apply to the system of subsidiary alliance introduced by Richard Wellesley? Okay, so Lord Wellesley likha hai, but go with the Richard Wellesley. Then, so to maintain a large standing army at the expense of others. Let's revise what is there in the subsidiary alliance system. Okay, so Richard Wellesley, he has come up with it, and then 1798. But then tell me that possible type of the question, that Richard Wellesley was the first person to introduce subsidiary alliance. Is it right or wrong? It is wrong. Who introduced subsidiary alliance system? Dupleix. Okay? So Dupleix was the first person to introduce subsidiary alliance system. Okay? Though not in the formal wording subsidiary alliance, but then exact policy was followed. Then, if they give you that Robert Clive also followed subsidiary alliance system, right or wrong? Right. Okay? So, started by Dupleix, so as followed by Robert Clive. But then, to make it an official policy, the credit is given to the Wellesley. Okay? So, Wellesley. So now, and moreover, that when Dupleix and Robert Clive was there, so they were using it with a caution. Then, but then he used it with a so much of kind of that free hand. Then each and everywhere. So now, what were the provisions? Oh, very first and the foremost provision, that the native ruler entering into the subsidiary alliance system will have to accept the British force in his territory at his own expense, meaning that he will have to pay the maintenance cost of this particular army. And if he is not able to pay, so he will have to give the chip of his territory or give a particular part of his territory to the army so that they can their maintenance can continue. So that is the one part. Then the second part was usurping the sovereignty of that particular area. How they were doing? So the native power cannot conclude any alliance then and cannot declare war with any other power without the permission of the British. They cannot employ any European then in the services other than British. A British resident would be posted in their court who will look after the terms of treaty, and then in return what they have promised, that they will look after, they will protect the native state from any internal or external danger. So now on the basis of it, इसमें क्या पूछा है, that does not apply. So that's why मैं बोल रहा था that you will have to take your pen and then mark it with the pen. So does not apply. तो इसमें mark कर देना. Most of the time we go with the correct apply. So that you need to be very careful. So to maintain a large standing army, correct. To keep India safe from the Napoleonic danger, then once again that external or internal war wala, so that is Napoleonic danger. Then to secure, or basically French ko rokna is a Napoleonic danger. Napoleon is from France. Then so this is the time that 1798 to 1805, that is the time of the rise of the Napoleon, and his influence is increasing in the Europe. Continental system he has created in the Europe. Because of that, many such economic depredations are there with the Britain. So they want to safeguard at least some of the colonies of theirs from the Napoleonic danger. Then the last one, beech wala chhod raha hu, to establish British paramountcy over the Indian states. Obviously, when you are dominating, that if the Indian power is not able to conclude the treaty with anybody without your permission, okay? So obviously he is subordinated, then meaning that British are the paramount power. And then the third one, to secure the fixed income for the company. This was not for the fixed income. What was there for the fixed income? Land revenue, ठीक है? So for the fixed income, and more importantly in this particular part, permanent settlement. That was a fixed income, permanent income. I hope you got it. Then, so once again, not a difficult question, but then I have seen in the market there was unnecessary discussion on it, that people were trying to look too much into this particular question. The objective of the Butler Commission of 1927. So this is the part that you read in the colonization of the princely states. The 5 phases. एक बार revise करो, 5 phases. What are the 5 phases? 1740 to 65, East India Company struggle for equality. I hope you know now that British East India Company struggle for equality, and how they got equality. Battle of Buxar. No. Buxar के बाद Diwani right, and they got the equality. The next phase is the ring fence. Ring fence is from 1765 to 1813. What is it? To safeguard the British Empire through many policies, and one of the policy was the subsidiary alliance system. Okay? Then comes 1813 to 1858, phase of subordinate isolation. पहले Indian states को already subordinate किया, and then they are isolated through doctrine of lapse. So that is till 1858. Then the revolt happened. After 1858, everything will change. 1858 to 1935, phase of subordinate union. Remember Queen Victoria Declaration. No, she disclaimed any intention of conquest. Then rights of the Indian princes would be respected, and then the Indians will be subordinate, but they will be union. So in this particular phase, princely states have been given a lot of importance. Many a times darbars were held. Allahabad Darbar, Delhi Darbar, okay? And in this, all the princely states were invited to streamline the relationship between the princely states and the British government. Chamber of Princes were created, and in 1927, Butler Commission was created to streamline the relationship between, or improve the relationship between, the Indian states and then the British government. So this is also a normal fact. It depends on the coverage, that from whatever sources, if you have studied, if it is covered, so then fine. नहीं covered है तो एक information कहीं पे भी miss हो सकता है. Then let's come to Wellesley established the Fort William College at Calcutta because, do I need to discuss? ठीक है, चलो let's move. So that's what is all. So now I'm going back. You will tell me, ठीक है? So mark this question, ठीक है? Mark this question. From which source? Tell me that from which source. That normal source, can you do it, or does it need a deeper source? Normal source, okay? Then let's go back to the next question. The objective of the Butler Committee. Have you studied or not? You have studied. Some of you are not saying anything. At least it has been done in the classes, in almost all of it. What is it? Normal source. Do question. Normal source. It's just about the assurance that is to be there. What is it? Is it normal source or difficult source? Normal source. We are going reverse in these all. Count करते रहना, ठीक है? 3 questions you have said normal source. Then tell me, I would say this to be little moderate to difficult one. So you can question mark it, okay? You can question mark it. Some of it you can do, but then इसमें problem William Jones नहीं है. Problem is Arthur Wellesley. Arthur Wellesley, okay? So I would say that it will go into the moderate to difficult, okay? So this is moderate to difficult. So out of 4, 3 normal source. Then this question regarding the Woods Dispatch, easy, okay? Very easy. So out of 5, 4 is normal source. Then, which of the following led to the introduction of the English education? I would say it is normal, okay? But then you can keep it in the moderate but not in difficult. Then, so we would say that 5 normal, 1 difficult, 1 moderate. Out of 7, this is the scenario. Then जो लोग उठ के चले गए, actually they missed the main part. Actually, I was saying na, this exam is all about patience also. If you don't have patience, then so you will miss many things. So now let's come to this one. See, assurance is very important in this exam. If you have that some sort of that illness, you can find the remedy on Google, but then that is not assuring. If you meet a doctor, if he gives the same remedy, it is assuring. You remember then? So you need assurance. कोई other material नहीं चाहिए तुम्हें, ठीक है? And this exercise is all about that only. So now, tell me this one. So out of 8 questions, 6 are normal. चलो चलो अभी चलते हैं, ठीक है? नहीं वेट टेल मी इजी क्वेश्चन, ठीक है? इट्स अ इजी क्वेश्चन. अगर जो ये फैक्ट याद नहीं हो रहा है तो फिर दिन ऑब्वियसली. सो आउट ऑफ 9, 7 नॉर्मल, ठीक है? इजी, ठीक है? सो आउट ऑफ 10, 8. Where you will keep this one? Easy, ठीक है? So out of 11, 9. And this one. Federations, easy, ठीक है? So 12 में 10, ठीक है? And then the last one, this one, the context of easy. So overall 90% normal source से कर ले रहे हो. अब पढ़ो, जो मन करे वो पढ़ो, ठीक है? शेखर बंदोपाध्याय पढ़ो, ठीक है? इसिता दुबे बनर्जी पढ़ो, ठीक है? You can read any source then. So this assurance is required. क्योंकि देखो, now understand, before winding up the class, I just want to say, your selection is not stopped because you are not able to solve the difficult question. You stop your selection because you are not able to do the easy questions. If you are able to solve the easy question, nobody can stop you. Then डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन से इस एग्जाम का फेट डिसाइड नहीं होता है, ठीक है? Saying it with the experience of not only mine but thousands of the students with whom I have interacted. So कल फिर then with further explanations I will come up, and then I would try that I would add few more things what you have studied in the classes, उसके अलावा कुछ additional भी इसमें हम ऐड करें, ठीक है? चलो, so winding up today. Thank you. And thanks for your patience. एक ट्रेड तो तुम लोग का चेक हो गया, देन इंटरव्यू में अच्छा मार्क्स मिलेगा तुम लोगों को. चलो, गुड नाइट.